The story of Servain, the proud and sickly young lady of the Noxerel family, who received a mysterious merman as a gift from her father. The merman's beauty gradually drew her in from initial curiosity, captivated by his sad gaze and silence. But before she could fully understand Mel's feelings, Servain passed away, leaving behind a confession that was never reciprocated. A century later, he returns in human form and meets a girl identical to her in the past. The young girl has the same appearance and name as Servain, who is actually her great-granddaughter. From here, the story unveils secrets about their old relationship, the reason for Mel's constant silence, and the thin line between love and obsession. Is this love or merely an obsession deep within the merman's subconscious for Servain? Let us discover the secret behind the merman's eyes with Lisa Manhwa. Listen, child. This is a story from the old days, told by those who came before us, a tale of our Noxerel family. Have you ever heard of my great-granddaughter, Servain Noxerel? That child raised a very beautiful merman. Because of her weak body, she could not leave the mansion, so she spent most of her time in bed. So the merman was her only comfort. Therefore, she cherished that merman very much. Eventually, she locked the merman in a pond. Servain's gaze turned cold, and she looked away. The room had a classical style, with faint sunbeams shining inside. A clear voice, full of curiosity, asked, "But Grandpa, do not mermaids live in the sea?" The old, frail grandfather sat on the bed and gently explained to his granddaughter. He was a gentle, weak child who even brought the merman to the pond himself. But the girl interjected, "No, Grandpa." The girl with coral-colored hair tilted her head, explaining like a child, "Mermaids live in salt water, but a pond is fresh water. For a merman, is not this pond more like a prison?" Servain shook her head in disagreement, her voice firm. "So, looking at it that way, this is not love, but obsession." Rahan coughed a few times, covering his mouth as he listened to his granddaughter, trying to hide his embarrassment. He did not respond to her words. Rahan placed his hand on Servain's coral hair, gently stroking it and sighing, "Well, you look so much like that child." She bowed her head onto her grandfather's soft bed, replying in an obvious tone, "Yes, you always say that every time I visit, at least 100 times now." Rahan whispered, "So you know that well?" Servain fiddled with the corner of his blanket, saying, not at all surprised, "That is why my name is the same as that person's." Rahan continued to stroke his granddaughter's hair with extremely gentle movements. Servain Noxerel, my great-grandfather, suffered from Alzheimer's. Every time he saw me, he would tell me the story of Noxerel, the person he remembered. A crow, perched outside the window, on a withered branch, peered through, observing the scene inside the room. Servain thought, "It seems my great-grandfather truly cared a lot about that granddaughter." The black crow flapped its wings and flew away, feathers scattering. She wondered, "A merman?" The crows returned to their nest, a distant, old mansion under the gloomy night, draped in an unprecedented eeriness. Servain seemed disbelieving of her grandfather's stories, telling herself, "It can't exist." Servain recalled, 10 years later, I came to the Noxerel mansion, where my great-grandfather's granddaughter once lived. The scene was like a horrifying painting, with red-eyed crows standing outside the window amidst heavy rain. Servain shivered slightly and thought. A slender hand stroked the stair railing. She imagined, in an uninhabited mansion, all alone, I met the person whose name had been spoken for 100 years. A man's voice, containing a hidden tremor, softly called, "Servain." Servain continued to recount. Even now, the man wore an untied white shirt, his open collar revealing his chest muscles and refined features. He parted his lips, trying to confirm, "Isn't that right?" His voice was like a bell, making Servain feel the blood in her body freeze. She stared blankly, her eyes trembling with fear. He still verified, "Is it truly Servain?" She found what she was witnessing strange, thinking to herself, "I do not know if what my great-grandfather said is true." Servain wondered to herself, or perhaps a question for Rahan, her esteemed grandfather, "Grandpa, let us assume there was a merman. You said they are mythical creatures with longer lifespans than humans. So where is that merman now?" Crows flew everywhere, the moonlight was faint, the atmosphere gloomy, and the misty clouds seemed to tell of an alien creature. Servain's memory continued. That person is still trapped inside the fish pond, waiting for your grandchild, if that is the case. The man walked closer, softly calling, "Servain." He took her hand, complaining as if resentful. "Why are you only coming now?" Servine's eyes widened, her face a mix of confusion and fear. He continued, "I thought you had completely forgotten about me." That person was Mel, the merman whom the eldest daughter of the Noxerol family had raised in the mansion. He pressed Servine's hand to his cheek, whispering, "I missed you so much." "Grandpa, that creature." Mel smiled, softly calling her name, Servine. Servine thought, "Why do I always think about him?" He accused her with a hint of anger. "What have you been doing that you are only just now arriving?" Heartbroken by the scene, she could not tell Mel the truth. Only able to recall Rahan's words, "The one who imprisoned me 100 years ago and left me." Mel gently licked Servine's finger, narrowing his eyes. "I have always been waiting for you." Seeing his expression, she felt a bit guilty and frightened. She wondered, is he harboring thoughts of revenge? The sky had regained a little light, as if opening pages of memories from the past. Black feathers drifted down. The servants in the mansion were busily preparing things and cleaning. In front of the large, soft bed, Servine Noxerel sat quietly, watching a man approaching, surrounded by maids carrying gifts. He spoke loudly. "Servine, I have brought gifts." She turned her head, uninterested. "I told you I do not need them." The head of the Noxerel family still tried to persuade his daughter. "This time will be different, Servine." Servine Noxerel, the eldest daughter of the Noxerel family? Servine glanced over indifferently, not paying much attention to his words. The head of the Noxerel family continued to babble. "I did not find it easily, but I brought it for you." "I am so lucky." She was tired, rolling her eyes, thinking with resignation, "If I die, everything will be useless." What is the difference anyway? Servine's expression worsened. Highly displeased, she thought, is he telling me to find hope in life while looking at a specimen brought for me? Servine's face contorted with anger, her eyebrows furrowed tightly, a contemptuous gaze. She curled her lip, sighing. Hateful. The head of the Noxerel family, like an overlord, looked down, his attitude not befitting a father seeing his child suffering from illness. Everything seemed like a curse. Servine was the one who recounted it. The Noxerel family was afflicted with mental illness from generation to generation. She paused for a moment, and perhaps I am too. But at least I... The door creaked open. A shaft of light illuminated her young face. Someone called, "Servine." The head of the Noxerel family glared at his daughter, reminding her, "Didn't I say you are not allowed in without my permission?" Servine thought. "I am not like my father." She frowned, her childlike face clearly showing worry. Servine's voice trembled. "I heard Mother is in a lot of pain. I just want to see her for a moment." He coldly repeated, "Servine." I already said no. She felt it strange, thinking because I never understood. The head of the Noxerel family said coldly, "Your mother is not well and needs to rest for a while. If you disturb her like this, her condition will only worsen." Servine detested the twisted love her father had for her mother. The handcuffs jingled on her pale, thin wrist. She recounted, "No one calls imprisoning one's wife love." The door slammed shut. The head of the Noxerel family left only a brief sentence. "Go back." Servine bowed her head, thinking, ever since they got married, father has always locked mother in her room. Since birth, whether sick or not, her body was always very weak. He was like a madman, wildly possessive of her mother, locking her up like some pet. She thought, that is not love. Servants surrounded Servine, constantly touching and restraining her. Servine felt it was crazy. She recognized her father's actions. It is possession. Suppose I also had someone I loved. I would never do something crazy, like imprisoning them. But what good is all that? With this body, afflicted by illness like my mother's since birth, all of that is meaningless. The head of the Noxerel family knelt. Trembling as he spoke to Servine, she asked me to take care of you until the end. Her eyes were empty. Servine turned away from his regretful words. The head of the Noxerel family continued, "If anything bad happens to you, I do not know how I will face her." Snow covered the mansion in white, as cold as Servine's heart. She sighed, asking herself, disgusting. How much longer must I endure this? When will this life end? Even doing nothing, my head hurts so much I want to cry. Sometimes the cough comes, tearing at my lungs. The illness has no known cure date. Is there any hope for me? The vase fell to the floor, shattering. The white flowers scattered with the broken vase. Sylvain despaired. I have no more expectations. A maid noticed and cried out in alarm, "Young miss!" Servant swept everything off the table, her voice growing cold. "Father!" Her eyes were empty and indifferent. "I have made it clear to you, I do not need gifts." The head of the Noxerel family still smiled. Behind a large curtain, something was hidden. Sylvain asked in disgust, "But what is this?" Like a cage, he moved aside, still not speaking. She impatiently stood up. "What exactly did you bring, father?" The head of the Noxerel family remained terrifyingly calm in the face of Sylvain's anger. He casually grasped the corner of a cloth, saying, "It was difficult to bring this. You have been looking forward to it, have not you?" She closed her eyes, calmly sat back down. "I do not need it." "Take it away, father. All I want is to be left alone. Time will pass, and I will simply die." The head of the Noxerel family was still very proud of what he had done. He assured her, "I am sure you will like it." The head of the Noxerel family instructed, almost as a challenge, "Don't be too surprised, Sylvain." The cloth was pulled away, and a string of beads clinked together. Sylvain's eyes were quickly drawn in. In her sight, a cool blue water appeared. Inside the tank, a merman lay silently asleep, his teenage face innocent, his features exquisite, like a landscape painting. Sylvain's eyes could not hide her surprise. She stammered, "Father, this... could it be?" The young man opened his eyes, his face innocent, his clear gaze scanning his surroundings. The head of the Noxerel family was very pleased with her expression. He said, "Yes, this is the first time you have seen this creature, is it not it?" Inside the fish tank, the young man reached out to touch the cold glass, clearly directing his gaze toward Sylvain. The head of the Noxerel family explained, "It is called a merman." Sylvain jumped up from her chair. She leaned on the table, moving closer to the glass tank. He continued to babble. "Isn't it so different from the animals you have seen before? I brought it back from the sea near our Noxerel mansion." The head of the Noxerel family continued, "Sylvain, because your body is not well, I have never taken you there directly. If you go into the forest, behind the mansion, you will find a cliff overlooking the sea, and that is where this creature appeared." He cautiously asked his daughter's opinion. "What do you think?" She reached out to touch the glass. The head of the Noxerel family affirmed, "From now on, it is yours." His blue eyes shone brightly even in the water. His skin was pale white. Silver scales glittered like moonlight. Sylvain's eyes were filled with astonishment and admiration. She seemed to really like this gift. "This was my first encounter with the merman." Sylvain smiled, a strange smile. She spoke, "Thank you, father." The people of the Noxerel family carried many problems from generation to generation. I, Sylvain Noxerel, inherited my mother's illness as well, so perhaps I am the worst masterpiece in the Noxerel family. Death, Sylvain's mother instructed the head of the Noxerel family before she died, "Take good care of our daughter. If my continued existence is to fulfill father's crazy dream." Sylvain thought about death. Then, conversely, is not death salvation for my life? This desire to resist fate is the only story I can continue to write with my own will. But more than I thought, death is something I cannot decide on my own. The moment I believed only time was on my side, I gave up everything. But at that moment, the merman found me. Her eyes sparkled. Something had changed in Sylvain. From then on, my life, everything changed. Everything had probably changed, in some way. Light pierced through the tree canopy, and the mansion seemed to open a brighter new page. Sylvain approached, trying to get to know the merman. "Hello, I am Sylvain Noxerel." The young man's fish tank was placed in the middle of the room. She said, "Even in this situation, you..." The young man's shoulders trembled, clear fear showing. Sylvain continued to praise, "Still very beautiful." She reached out, wanting to caress him, especially his eyes. Before his bewildered and frightened gaze, Sylvain remained calm. "Those eyes are like my mother's." She touched the cold glass. "Seeing you makes me think of my deceased mother again." Sylvain's gaze suddenly turned cold, because my mother was an incredibly unfortunate person. She turned, looked at the bluebird on the table, and asked, "See it? It is called an animal mummy. The bird was dead. Or rather, it was just a carefully preserved shell, its eyes cold and stiff. Surveying as if nothing was wrong, calmly and strangely explained. People chemically treat dead animals beforehand to prevent them from oxidizing and rotting. The merman teenager slammed his hand on the glass, seemingly very startled by the words escaping her mouth. Surveying only smiled reassuringly. Don't misunderstand. I did not do that. The person I call father gave me living creatures as gifts. Her eyes were cold, her words also cold and emotionless. I said I did not need it, so he mummified it and displayed it like that. She continued to recount, my mother was my father's display. She was locked in a room, unable to do anything, and died of illness. Turning her eyes away, Surveying indifferently sneered, and they call that love. How ridiculous. She turned her back. You came from the sea, did not you? Surveying closed her eyes and said, because I can't leave the mansion, I have never seen the sea. Her eyes were full of vagueness and longing, sparkling. Surveying sighed. It must be beautiful, like you. I imagined myself swimming in the sea, a place much larger than a pond. If I could get well and go there, I think it would not matter if I was swept away by the waves or sank deep into the sea. But the harsh reality was that Surveying still had to live in the mansion with a body exhausted by illness. She said, whatever it is, it must be better than being imprisoned in the mansion, right? The sound of shoes clacking echoed. Surveying whined, hey, quickly tell me your story. Her voice gradually became doubtful. You. Surveying bowed her head and asked, you can speak, right? Since you arrived here, for a whole month, I have observed you every day. I have not eaten, I have not slept, I have only watched you. She reached out, trying to caress the young man through the glass. Sometimes I imagined you swimming freely in the sea. Because I diligently read all the anatomy books in the mansion, I know you have a human-like body. Surveying reached out, as if wanting to squeeze his white neck. So now let me hear your gentle voice. To do that, I first have to pull you out of the water, right? Her voice was like a curse. That pale hand tightly grasped the young man's small neck. Surveying said, after that, I will let you breathe with lungs. The young man's eyes widened, tears welling up from his burning sockets. She was excited. When you opened that beautiful mouth, Surveying's eyes widened, very excited. She frantically squeezed his chin, forcing him to open his mouth. I will be able to observe the inside of your throat. Her amber eyes gleamed with a hint of madness, clearly enjoying this action. Surveying feigned a question. Should I do that? The merman finally could not bear it, and opened his mouth with difficulty. I can. He stammered, clutching his chest. I said, yes. Before Surveying's satisfied expression, the young man assured, I will speak. She did not reply, only gently wiped away his tears, whispering, so Merman's tears are not pearls. Servant left a comment. Your voice is as gentle as I imagined. Diary, X/X/X/X. The merman has not eaten for a month. Surveying bit her pen. I do not know what he eats, even if I put fish in the tank. The merman still curled up, hugging his body motionless. He did not eat either. He said his name was Mel. The merman's voice is beautiful. The merman, who used to answer me little by little, stopped speaking. Since he was brought here, until now, the merman has not eaten anything. Mel no longer let me hear his voice. The fish tank shattered. Mel lay amidst the sharp glass shards, curled up, dying. Surveying panicked. What should I do with you? Watching the merman gradually grow pale and lifeless, she frantically thought of solutions. If I pulled out each scale, would not I hear his screams? Her face contorted with anger and grief. How can he not eat anything? If he just dies like this, then... The ink smudged, a drop of ink spreading across the diary page. Surveying cradled her head, looking at Mel still motionless in the fish tank. She whispered, Die, Mel, suppose, just suppose. Surveying propped her hand on her forehead, her face darkening as she thought, if Mel... Her hand unconsciously trembled. The diary page was crumpled. Surveying urgently thought, Dies like mother, what will I do? She bit her lip, her body shaking even more frantically. Fear intensely gripped Surveying's mind. She suddenly screamed, startling both the merman and the surrounding fish. Wake up? Surveying seemed to have erupted in a fit of rage. She repeatedly questioned, "What is the problem? Where is the problem? I fed you, let you sleep, talked to you. I did everything, did not I?" The merman had probably never seen Servin so angry. His hazy eyes widened in surprise. She recounted, full of resentment. "You tell me to crawl, I will crawl. You tell me to cry, I will cry. You want gemstones, I will give you all the family heirlooms. I said I would do everything." Servain's eyes were empty and pitiful, as if filled with the most stubborn and painful emotions. She said, "Except for leaving here." Servin screamed, "Wake up! I told you to wake up!" The bodyguards outside were shocked by the noise inside, their bodies stiff. They quickly rushed in, panicking. "Young miss, what is wrong?" On the floor, shattered debris was covered by a heavy diary. Someone stammered, "Young miss?" The bodyguards continuously asked questions. Some even pointed the blame at Mel. "What is wrong? Did that merman do something to the young miss?" But Servin only snarled angrily, "Get out!" Her gaze was as cold as a wild beast. She repeated, "Get out! Didn't you hear?" The bodyguard's footsteps retreated, saying fearfully, "We understand." They stepped out of the room, cautiously saying, "Pardon our intrusion," and then closed the door. The hallway was dark, with tiny rays of sunlight filtering through the window panes. The butler had reported Servin's situation to the master of the Noxerel household. He asked again. "Servin," the butler replied. "Yes, Duke." The butler said, "I heard the young lady has been screaming. According to the servants, she is becoming increasingly sensitive and easily irritated. If this continues, the young lady's health Master Noxerel cut him off. Enough." He rested his hand on his chin, cruelly ordering, "No one outside is to know about Servin's condition. Ensure the household staff keeps their mouths shut." The master's words grew colder and more ruthless. "If that thing is worsening Servin's illness, it is best to dispose of it immediately." His eyes were cold and unmoving. "If that thing is worsening Servin's condition." As if speaking of some piece of trash, Master Noxerel coldly stated, "It is best to dispose of it immediately." Servin awoke in her bed, her eyes slowly opening. She sat up, rubbing her forehead, letting out a soft moan of pain. Servin thought with disgust, "This cursed body shows no sign of improvement." Seeing the empty fish tank, she hesitated. Mel, a flicker of panic appeared in her amber eyes. The warm blood in her veins seemed to freeze in that moment. Servin quickly got out of bed and approached the fish tank, cautiously calling out, "Mel." Her steps were slow and heavy as she drew closer and closer. But the empty fish tank seemed to answer Servin's question. Mel had disappeared. Servin panicked, screaming, "No, Mel." She roared, "Mel is gone." Barefoot, Servin ran outside to search. The maids, seeing this, tried to stop her, all pleading, "Young lady, what is wrong? Please calm down." Her cruel and scrutinizing gaze fell directly upon them. "My merman, where have you hidden him?" The maid trembled, backing away. "I do not know, we do not know anything." Servin stroked the maid's hair, pressed her own forehead against the maid's face and whispered, "Is that so? It seems no one will tell me." She asserted, "Father must have taken him away." Servin asked, "Where is the Duke?" The terrified maids frantically explained what they knew, begging for their lives. "I only know he has left the Duke's mansion, milady. Other than that, we truly know nothing. Please spare me, young lady." Servin raised her pale hand, her face serene. Just as her hand was about to strike the poor maid's face, the maid stammered, "He—" Servin lowered her hand, and the maid quickly blurted out, "Has gone to the lake." Then, quick as a flash, Servin was gone. The maid called out loudly after her, "Young lady!" She ran very fast, crossing the muddy ground barefoot. The maids, hoisting their skirts, ran after her. "Young lady, wait." They desperately pleaded, "If you run like that and fall, it will be a big problem, young lady." Servin did not look back, only kept running towards the lake shore. "Young lady Servin." Dazzling sunlight pierced through the leaves. Master Noxerel stood watching the sun. He turned, frozen, when he saw his daughter. Behind the master were two knights with their swords at Mel's throat, the poor merman youth. He called out worriedly, "Servin." But Sylvain's gaze was fixed only on the merman, struggling to gasp for air, her eyes wide with astonishment. The merman's eyes were tearful, utterly weak. His eyes were red as he stammered, "Sir." Master Noxerel questioned, "Sylvain, why are you here?" But Sylvain paid little attention, rushing past him towards the merman. Seeing his daughter approach the knights, the master ordered, "Sheathe your swords." The knights looked somewhat awkward. "Young lady, this matter your grace." Sylvain threatened without hesitation. "Before I cut my own wrist, sheathe your swords." The knights quickly sheathed their swords. She knelt down and grasped the merman's shoulders. Master Noxerel worried, "Sylvain, go inside immediately." But Sylvain ignored him, embracing the trembling Mel. He coldly spoke the cruel truth, "Because that merman will be dealt with today." Sylvain dreamily replied, "Father, you are the one who gave me this merman." Master Noxerel tried to justify himself. "But your health has been getting worse. If you do not want me to kill the merman, I will spare his life." But she cut him off now. Sylvain, cold and indignant, said, "Are you trying to steal my possession, father?" She uttered heartless words. "Because of mother, the one you once loved, you had no other choice. But if others covet my merman, I will gouge out all their eyes." Master Noxerel, helpless, could only shout his daughter's name, Sylvain. But Sylvain merely threatened coldly, "If any human touches him, I will cut off their hands. If anyone says they will sell Mel, I will cut out their tongue. This time, I absolutely won't let him be taken away." She was frantic. "Because this is my merman." Lord Noxerel, Sylvain Noxerel's father, roared in anger. "Sylvain, you!" Sylvain did not care. She looked at him coldly and said, "If anyone steals Mel." Her eyes were filled with killing intent, but her lips curved into a smile as she threatened, "I will curse them to the very end, even in death." In the forest, the clear blue lake rippled gently. Butterflies flitted around clusters of flowers, and Sylvain's voice rang out, "Are you all right, Mel?" Mel replied softly. "What?" she explained. "I am talking about this lake. Aren't you from the sea?" He turned his back, his entire body drenched with water. Mel lowered his face, his voice, "Transhong, what does that matter?" Sylvain sat on the bank, hugging her knees. She rested her face on them, her eyes fixed on him as she said, "Let us go back to the fish tank. The lake is not good for your health." Mel's hands trembled as he clutched a clump of grass on the bank, saying, "What difference would it make if I stayed in there?" Sylvain reached out and gently stroked his tear-streaked face, thinking to herself, "If this were before, a tear-stained face, a look of despair, would have been beautiful. Nothing more. But it is strange." She slowly wiped Mel's tears. "His appearance now pains me, full of regret, but also so beautiful." Sylvain gently lifted his face. She could not help but think, "I want him to look only at me, to never let go." Perhaps he cannot understand, but Mel's face flushed as he looked at her face, drawing closer. Sylvain placed a gentle kiss on his beautiful eyes. In that moment she thought, "Like this, I am starting to find you very adorable." At night, in a certain room, an oil lamp illuminated the words. Servant's thoughts resurfaced. That was a hasty action, an impulsive thought. Adorable. Who would imprison the one they love in a lake? These feelings, I know their origin. This is simply the greed of possession. The next morning at the Noxerel family mansion, before leaving the lake, I said again that we should return to the mansion together. But Mel decided to stay at the lake. I promised Mel I would visit him every day, and then I returned to the mansion. Sylvain, looking calm, sat upright on the bed and asked Daphne in a low voice. "Not yet," she thought to herself. "Several days have passed, and I still have not been able to see Mel." Daphne, flustered and scared, bowed respectfully and replied, "Yes, young lady. If you leave now, we will all truly be dismissed. Just a little more health, then." Sylvain cut Daphne off before she could finish, saying, "All right, I know." Her face was flushed and dotted with sweat. Her hands trembled as she struggled to clench them. Sylvain's entire body was trembling. She looked at her hands and could not help but worry. "I promised to visit Mel. Can I go to the lake in this condition? I seem to be getting weaker by the moment." Sylvain turned to Daphne and asked, "Do you know how to read?" Daphne stammered in confusion. Yes, I do." Hearing this, she said, From today onwards, you will deliver my messages to the Merman. Daphne was stunned. Then she asked in alarm, Yes, me. I can read the young lady's letters. Servain covered her mouth, coughing, and said weakly, There is no other way, because the Merman can't read. She said nothing more, ordering Daphne, Anyway, see how the Merman is living and report back to me. Daphne replied respectfully, Yes, young lady. Late at night, Mel was alone in the lake, remembering Servain's letter. Are you well, Mel? That lake has never frozen, but I worry if you are lonely and cold there all by yourself. The sea is where you used to live, so you won't easily adapt to the lake. If you need anything, tell me anytime. Take care. I will see you soon. In Servain's bedroom, she was enjoying a cup of tea. Servain slightly raised her head. She coldly asked, Did Mel say nothing today either? She could not stop thinking about him. As always, I write letters to Mel, but he has not replied to me even once. Daphne replied to her in alarm, Yes, milady, I apologize. Nevertheless, I still do not forget to write letters, because this is the only way I can reach Mel. Servant continued to send him letters every day. In bed, her entire face was flushed and covered in sweat. Servain struggled to breathe, her hands clutching the blanket. A voice rang out, trying to wake Servain. Young lady, please wake up. She painstakingly opened her eyes, vaguely saying, Daphne. Daphne's face was full of worry as she looked at her. Yes, young lady, it is me. I have brought your medicine. Can you sit up? On the small table was a basin of water with a compress, a glass of water, and medicine. Servain slowly sat up, still thinking of Mel at this moment. More importantly, have you delivered my letter to Mel? Daphne took the medicine and replied to her, Yes, of course, milady. But he still did not say anything today. Daphne poured the medicine packet into the glass of water and reassured Servain, Even so, do not worry too much, because one day that Merman will understand the young lady's feelings. She tremblingly reached out for the glass of medicine, saying with difficulty, Is that so? Thank you, Daphne. Daphne smiled respectfully as she handed her the glass of medicine. It is nothing, milady. Here is your medicine. Servain slowly brought the glass of medicine to her lips and drank. Daphne stood beside her and spoke. You are writing a letter today too, are not you? This time, I will also convey your words clearly. Please do not worry. She seemed very excited. Daphne, her cheeks flushed, smiled brightly and said, You must eat well, because only then can the young lady continue to write letters to the Merman. The maid had sent to Mel every day. One day brought quite interesting news. Servain thought restlessly. A week has passed, and I have not been able to write to him. She sat on the bed, her eyes wide, hands clutching the blanket, exclaiming in surprise, What? Daphne stood by the bed, respectfully telling Servain, Today, for the first time, Lord Merman asked about the young lady. Each of her words astonished Servain more and more. He asked when the young lady would come, and why you were not writing letters anymore. Then Servain smiled faintly and said, Is that so? Daphne immediately replied, Yes. So I conveyed that your health was not good, as the young lady instructed, and said you had no time to write letters. She praised, Well done. Continue to say that for me, and tell him that I miss him, and that I will definitely come to see him. Servain's words startled Daphne, her face turning pale, her eyes widening. Daphne asked dryly, her voice trembling, Yes, young lady, what are you saying? She looked at her with suspicion. Daphne. Daphne did not reply, but continued to ask, How will the young lady go out? She stared at her, asking in a terrifying voice, When will you go to see him? Servain clutched the blanket. Ha! Her cold voice echoed throughout the room. It seems I truly have been seriously ill all this time, just staying in one place to rest. Servain sat on the bed, her face drawn. So I have to go through things like this too. Her face full of anger as she looked at Daphne, Servain growled, I have indulged you too much, have not I? Daphne recoiled, screaming in terror. I am sorry, milady, She ignored Daphne's words. Servain slowly spoke. Stop working and get out of the mansion. Daphne collapsed to her knees, pleading, Because I was anxious, I did this. She remained unmoved, coldly saying, Get out! Daphne trembled, kneeling on the ground, tears streaming down her face. I was crazy. From now on, such a thing will never happen again. I will do well. She cried, Please, just this once, forgive me, young lady. Servain calmly sat on the bed, listening to Daphne's pleas. I have many younger siblings, so... Young lady, I beg you. Please. Hearing this, Servain's hand subtly relaxed. Servain spoke. I will only let it go this once. Daphne looked up, her face beaming with joy, saying, Yes, yes, of course. Thank you, young lady. She looked at Daphne kneeling on the ground and said, Now go do what you have to do. I do not need to say anything else, do I? Servain's warning voice rang out. Remember this, Daphne, there won't be a second chance. She closed her eyes and lay on the bed. Suddenly, a soft voice whispered, Is she asleep? Today, Lord Mel is also very beautiful. On the table, the medicine and water remained untouched. Servain remained motionless, with her eyes closed, seemingly having fallen into a deep sleep. If I had Lord Mel, I think I could do anything. The person approached her bed, placing one hand on the bed, saying, Today, Lord Mel asked when he would be taken to the sea. Daphne's terrifying face pressed close to Servain, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Daphne spoke maniacally, so I replied that I would take him if the young lady died. She moved closer and closer to Servain, finally. I can keep my word. Outside, a flock of black crows continuously circled the mansion. A crow flew towards Servain's bedroom window. Then it landed on a nearby snow-covered branch. In Servain's room, everything was covered with white sheets. Candles were scattered all over the floor. A hand gently pulled back the curtain and slowly stepped down. Servain's face was pale and annoyed. She frowned and said, What are all these? She looked at the room covered in white cloths, at the burning candles on the ground. Servain scoffed. Ha! Could it be that they think I am dead? She slowly shuffled forward, thinking, Or else I might actually be dead. Servain trembled as she pushed open the room door. Have several days passed already? She leaned on the door with difficulty. The headache made her disoriented, but Servain still remembered that she had conveyed to Mel that she would definitely come. She warily bent down. Servain looked at the dark, empty hallway, thinking, There is no one here. Moonlight shone faintly through the window. How many days has it been before it is too late? Today, I really must go see Mel. She still remembered her promise to Mel, the promise conveyed through letters. I must fulfill it. In the forest, on the snow-covered dry grass, there was an oil lamp. A voice shouted, Hey, hurry up. A stone was thrown forcefully, accompanied by a loud shout, Hurry up and come out! Not coming out! The person on the bank kept throwing stones and shouting, I will let you know, I will keep throwing stones until you show up. It was Daphne. She held a large stone in her hand, intending to throw it down, her face ugly. Daphne kept screaming, Why have not you appeared these past few days? Mel seemed to be emerging from the lake. Seeing this, she smiled excitedly. Finally, Daphne stared at him and suddenly said, Are you showing off your expensive face? Mel did not answer. He looked at her coldly. Why are you here at this hour? She walked closer to the surface of the lake and said, Do you remember what I said before? He was startled. What did you say? Daphne's next words made him freeze. She is finally dead. She repeated it again, continuously twisting the knife in his wound. Servant Noxerel, she is dead. Mel could not believe it. He asked in alarm, What are you saying? Servant is dead. Mel trembled, saying, That is why she could not write letters. What happened to her? His tears fell. Could it be? A tear fell on the lake's surface, rippling it. You killed her. Her answer made Mel freeze. What if I did? Daphne dropped the stone and said, That evil person is dead, so why are you reacting like that? Her face was terrifying. Daphne patted herself maniacally, saying, If I said that, you should be happy, should not you? Didn't I say I would take you to the sea if that woman died? His entire body trembled. Mel cried out in pain. How could you do such a thing? He buried his face in his hands and cried. To me, Servain was not a bad person. She did not deserve to be killed by anyone. I was going to be friendly if she sent me letters. Daphne looked at the crying Mel in disbelief. She criticized him. Are you stupid? Because you are a fish, your brain is only that big. Do you really think those sweet words were sincere? You are unbelievably foolish. His pearl-like tears continued to fall. His voice softly echoed. Perhaps they were sincere. He was not inherently a cruel person. Mel said in alarm. Because of me, he became like that. Because of me, Sir Vane. Daphne stood on the bank, her face darkened. She bit her lip, listening to him blame himself. Because of my ability. Daphne suddenly lunged forward, grabbing his hair and shouting, "It is not my fault." She mumbled. She was already dead before that. Then Daphne attacked Mel even more fiercely. I said she was a person who deserved to die anyway. He cried out in pain. Ah! She gripped his hair tightly and yelled, "Don't resist." Daphne's eyes were bloodshot, full of madness. You belong to me, she screamed. I said from now on you are mine. Sir Vane stood behind Daphne, her face cold, holding a large piece of wood raised high. She did not hesitate to strike Daphne directly on the head with the wood. Daphne fell, under Mel's terrified gaze. Sir Vane's voice rang out, "Long time no see." Huh? Mel could only weep, staring intently at her. Sir Vane squatted down, raising the oil lamp to illuminate his face. Her face was red from illness, and her eyes were hazy as she said, "I hoped you would live well in the lake, but it seems it has not been very good. I have missed you very much, Mel." A few minutes earlier, Sir Vane was slowly making her way to Mel, holding an oil lamp. A voice rang out, and her hand holding the oil lamp paused slightly. Sir Vane breathed heavily, one hand clutching her cloak. It sounds like someone's voice. She moved closer and heard a loud shout. Why have not you appeared these past few days? Sir Vane stopped. That voice. She quickly hid behind a tree, quietly observing. Sir Vane thought in confusion. It is Daphne's, but why is she meeting Mel on her own at this hour? Then she watched Mel slowly emerge from the lake. Sir Vane watched him talk to Daphne. Why are you here at this hour? As soon as she heard Mel's voice, her entire body stiffened. Her hand tightened on her cloak, her lips pressed together, not daring to breathe heavily. Sir Vane chuckled softly. That voice? It has been a long time since I have heard it. Wild thoughts flooded her mind again. I should have kept him locked in the fish tank. Whether dead or alive, Sir Vane imagined Mel being locked up, countless iron chains binding him so he could not escape. These insane thoughts would not stop. If he dies, he must die in front of me. That way, no one else will hear his voice but me. Sir Vane Noxirel. She is dead. Daphne's scream cut off Sir Vane's train of thought. She stood behind the tree, silently watching him cry. Sir Vane thought with a pang of pain, as expected. She slowly stepped out from behind the tree. Sir Vane wanted to hear Mel's answer. Are you also hoping for my death, just like her? What are you saying? Sir Vane is dead, his voice rang out. She clutched the oil lamp in her hand. Mel's questioning voice rang out. Could it be? You killed her. How could you do such a thing? She did not deserve to be killed by anyone. Sir Vane's eyes widened in astonishment as she listened to him. Mel buried his face in his hands, crying. I was going to be friendly if she sent me letters. His tears seemed to fall into her heart. Sir Vane's heart was now in utter turmoil. What have I done to you, me, like this? How could you? On Mel's side, he kept blaming himself. Because of me, he became like that. Because of me, Sir Vane. The sounds of beating, cursing, and Mel's painful screams rang out. I said she was a person who deserved to die anyway. Don't resist. Sir Vane's face was worried. She caught sight of a large piece of wood. She immediately picked up the wood. Then Sir Vane quietly approached Daphne. Mel was astonished to see her. She swung the stick and hit Daphne hard on the head. He watched in horror as she fell. Sir Vane spoke first. I hoped you would live well in the lake. Then she gently sat down and spoke to Mel. But it seems it has not been very good. I have missed you very much, Mel. Sir Vane placed the lamp on the ground. He looked at the unconscious Daphne under the tree and asked, What will you do with her? Mel continued, Daphne was not like this originally. From the first time, she was very friendly to me. She cut him off before he could finish. What? Are you defending her? He said softly. I have no other choice. Sir Vane stood up, her face darkened, her voice cold. What? Tell me. Mel bowed his head. not daring to look at her. Because I have the ability to enchant others. Servant looked at him with an angry expression. You mean you enchanted my maid and made the situation like this? Are you kidding me? Mel clenched his hands and trembled, replying, I know it is hard to believe, but it is true. So her becoming like that is also my fault. Her words made him stiffen. You, in this situation, are still worried about that maid. Mel looked at Servain, choking up as he explained. Neither Daphne nor I intended to do this. Because I have not reached adulthood yet, I have not learned to control my ability. So, Servain. The cold night wind blew past her. Servain remained silent. I do not care, Mel. She said, whether that ability of yours is real or not, enchanting or not enchanting. Her voice seemed even colder than the night wind. That maid coveted my possession. You are worrying over nothing. Servain gently bent down and stroked his face, a faint smile on her lips, saying, As long as I am alive, you are my own personal merman. Mel reached out and touched her hand, his voice pleading, Servant, I know you are a good person. Daphne has changed like that, and now you are like this. Servain heard this and laughed in anger. She growled, You think I am like this, that I like you because I am enchanted by your ability, that I am affected by something you can't control. Servain moved closer to Mel. No, Mel, it is because I was born this way. Everyone in the Noxerel tribe is the same. Their minds were all disturbed, old memories playing back in her head like a film. The Duke of Noxerel's cold demeanor clearly appeared. I told you, you are not allowed to enter this room without my permission, Servain, he said to Mel. I carry the family's blood. But the only difference between me and them is this weak body. And this is not the love you speak of, but possessive greed. She suddenly saw her mother's fearful face on Mel's face, Servain. Servain recoiled in panic. She turned around and said, For now, just wait. We will talk about the rest later. I will come again next time. No sooner had Servain finished speaking than someone rushed over and pushed her forcefully. Daphne had woken up at some unknown point. She pushed so fast that Servain had no time to react. She was simply pushed and fell into the lake in front of Mel. Her hair gently brushed past his face. Mel's eyes widened in horror as he watched Servain fall. He screamed, Servain! She quickly sank into the water. Servain faintly reached out a hand, as if trying to grasp something. Her entire body submerged. Servain opened her eyes and looked forward. Daphne's malicious hand, after pushing Servain Noxerel into the lake, had not even had time to retract. The moment happened in a flash. Caught off guard, Mel stared blankly at the water where Servain Noxerel had just fallen. He could not believe his eyes, momentarily stunned, his mouth slightly agape. Then, as if suddenly awakening, Mel startled, rushing forward, anxiously calling out, Servain! At the same time, Daphne's hand reached out and firmly gripped his arm, stopping him. Looking up at her, Mel exclaimed in surprise, Daphne! Holding him tightly, Daphne loudly reminded him, You have to leave now. Mel struggled. Let go, Servain. She grew agitated. That is what you wanted, was not it? Mel's voice echoed in the air, filled with panic. Please stop, Daphne. He pushed her forcefully to the ground and angrily said, I never wanted that. Mel's eyes were now filled with determination. I won't go with you. Daphne's face showed fear, her voice somewhat trembling. I did it for you. Unable to accept this outcome, she bit her lip tightly, trying to control her emotions. Daphne turned and quickly ran off, accidentally knocking over the lamp on the ground, causing it to shatter. Fire from the lamp spread around, creating a large blaze. Under the dark, murky water, Servain Noxerel realized that the lake was colder and more desolate than she had imagined. Mel must have been here alone all this time. Her body sank deeper and deeper, and after a long period of oxygen deprivation, breathing became increasingly difficult. Servain Noxerel's consciousness began to falter. Am I finally going to die? As her reason crumbled, a faint, blurry figure suddenly appeared before her, swimming frantically towards her. The figure came closer and closer. Recognizing that anxious face, Servain Noxerel whispered, Mel. Her hand involuntarily loosened and fell, a hint of disbelief in her heart. Are you coming to save me? Mel quickly grasped Servain Noxerel's hand, causing her mind to question, why didn't you hate being trapped in the lake? Servain Noxerel realized he was very close and even gentle with her, becoming flustered. Don't do that. Mel's hand gently touched her cheek. Sylvain Noxerel felt even more helpless. Don't, I beg you. He leaned in close, gazing at her intently, then softly placed a kiss on her lips. Sylvain Noxerel thought bitterly to herself, even if you save me, I will only hurt you again. The moment their lips touched, space and time seemed to halt. Before her consciousness emptied, Sylvain Noxerel was still tormented by the thought. You will regret saving me? Scene change. Her mind seemed to be in a different space, the world around her completely monochrome. That night, Sylvain Noxerel dreamt. Alone in the pitch-black night, a fierce snowstorm raged, but strangely, she felt no cold. Sylvain Noxerel slowly lifted her head. Before her eyes was an unfrozen sea, and Mel was there too, smiling brightly. Sylvain Noxerel stood silent for a long time, then softly called out, Mel. But strangely, he did not answer, instead turning his back coldly and walking away. She panicked, chasing after him and calling out loudly, Mel. His figure quickly dove deep into the water. Sylvain Noxerel's voice became urgent. Where are you going? Helplessly, she reached out her hand in vain. Don't leave me. Only silence answered. Sylvain Noxerel cried out in pain. Wait for me. Take me with you. I will go with you. Her feet, already at the water's edge, paused slightly, then her voice rang out. If it is now, I can go to the sea with you. Immediately after, Sylvain Noxerel's entire body stumbled and gradually sank into the water. Her mind incessantly called out, Mel, where are you, Mel? All around was just water. Despite the cold enveloping her, Sylvain Noxerel had only one plea, please come back. There was no reply. Her tear-filled eyelashes slowly closed. Sylvain Noxerel's mind became hazy and unfocused, yet the thought echoed endlessly. Don't leave me. Scene change. Waking from her dream, she was now lying on her familiar bed, her eyes still teary, unconsciously calling out a name, Mel. The surrounding servants, seeing that Sylvain Noxerel had woken up, joyfully and frantically cried out, Oh my goodness, the young lady is awake! They fussed over her with concern and questions. Quickly, call the Duke. Young lady, are you all right? Are you fully awake, young lady? Looking at the familiar chandelier on the ceiling, Sylvain Noxerel realized, it is my room. I thought I was dead this time. This time, it really felt that way. Not answering the servant's question, her eyes were sad. So you saved me. Sylvain Noxerel gently closed her eyes, allowing tears to stream down her cheeks. A moment later, the head of the Noxerel family entered, looked at her, and called out worriedly, Sylvaina. Sunlight streamed into the room through the window. His voice rang out. Is your body all right, Sylvain? Noxerel replied. Perhaps because I have gone through hardship once, I am fine. Where is Mel? The head of the Noxerel family hesitated at the question. That scene change. Back to the time Sylvain Noxerel was rescued, the lamp Daphne had knocked over earlier caused a large fire. As Sylvain Noxerel was pulled from the water, the trees on the shore were intensely burning. Mel looked at the person in his arms, both fearful and anxious, calling out, Sylvain, wake up. No, you must wake up. He looked towards the shore, quite far from them. Through the firelight, he saw a faint shadow of people, and joyfully reassured her, someone is coming. Just a little more, please. Mel hugged Sylvain Noxerel tightly and immediately yelled, Help! Sylvain is here! He is here! Hearing no one, his eyes became panicked, his mind chaotic. Sylvain is here! Here, Sylvain here! Please help! With all his strength, Mel screamed again, Sylvain is here! Scene change. In Sylvain Noxerel's room, the head of the Noxerel family calmly stated, his whole body was burned, and many parts of his scales were torn. I had decided not to tell you, fearing it would affect your treatment, Sylvain. He gently advised, if you knew he ended up like that because of you, would not all his efforts to save you be in vain? For that reason, I hope you won't be shocked. At this, Sylvain Noxerel's tears uncontrollably fell, streaming down her cheeks. The head of the Noxerel family's voice rang out. According to the doctor, he has lost his voice. In an instant, her face turned pale, her lips white, her eyes wide with panic, a discomfort in her heart she could not express. Sylvain Noxerel's mind echoed with the phrase, perhaps for the rest of his life, that thing will no longer make a sound. She stood before a very large tank, looking at Mel inside through the glass, then spoke. I hear the forest fire has been put out, but you will have to wait a while if you want to go to the lake. His body's wounds had been carefully bandaged. He listened silently as Sylvain Noxerel continued. To treat you, I had no choice but to bring you to the tank. She looked glumly, moving closer, pressing her hand against the glass as if wanting to touch the person inside, stammering. And also, Mel's once beautiful silver-blue tail was no longer shimmering and had gradually become dull. Sylvain Noxerel thought with pain in her heart, because of me. Even if I live, it is meaningless, because this body and spirit are like a shell. Right now, he must be regretting it greatly, wishing he had just let me die. Why save the one who imprisoned him in the lake? Sylvain Noxerel silently pursued these negative thoughts. Yes, surely now. She looked at Mel's face and thought despondently. He is regretting saving me. The more she thought, the more helpless she felt. Sylvain Noxerel unconsciously bit her lip tightly. The two looked at each other through the glass. She hesitated. Do you know your current condition? Sylvain Noxerel's hand clenched her skirt, then continued. They said you can't speak for the rest of your life. Perhaps I am the one who regrets it. It seems you think life is very important. Sylvain Noxerel recalled the words they had exchanged before. Daphne's complete change is my fault, but does respect for life exist in the human world? In this world, your life is the lowest. She then thought, for saying such trash to the one who saved me. Mel's expression became panicked when he heard her say, Do you think you can save someone? Seeing her reflection in his beautiful eyes, Sylvain Noxerel thought, Perhaps now you will be more afraid of me, but that is exactly what I want. She put on an act of being a bad person, thinking even if I have to do this, then scoffed, what? Now you regret it, right? Humans treat you cruelly, yet you act friendly towards them. Isn't it pointless, Sylvain Noxerel thought, if you had not harmed your body to save someone? She softly asked, What would you be like if the one who captured you was not me? A thought arose in Sylvain Noxerel's mind, answering her own question. Then you could have spoken more. Looking at the decorative patterns above, her voice rang out. At that time, unable to speak, did you ever think you would have to endure many things far more terrifying than this? The sky outside the window had darkened. In the room, only Sylvain Noxerel was monologuing. At that time, even if you were burnt in the fire, you would not be able to open your mouth to ask. She rested her head against the glass of the tank containing Mel, her body trembling slightly. Your situation, your intentions, or anything. Inside, Mel watched Sylvain Noxerel's every expression with worried attention. With a sad face, she seemed to be speaking to herself. This is my last remaining conscience before death. I will send a signal when I take you back to the sea. Remembering the beautifully patterned family crest, Sylvain Noxerel calculated, no matter who captures you, if they possess the symbol of the Duke of Noxerel's family, most people won't be able to harm you. Also, she recalled a previous conversation with a servant and felt more at ease. This will be good for you. Images of letters appeared in Sylvain Noxerel's mind, and then an idea struck her. If you could read and write, everything would be solved. Even without your voice, you could still express your intentions. Looking at the beautiful face before her, she decided, yes, that would be better. I will teach you to read, Mel. The left curtain was neatly tied back into a corner. Next, the other curtain was also drawn open. In Sylvain Noxerel's hand, she was showing a piece of paper to the person inside the tank. Mel, I will stick today's lesson here. She carefully instructed, if you do not know, tap on the tank, and I will show you again. Seeing Mel intently looking at the paper in front of him, Sylvain Noxerel's voice rang out. Whenever you are bored, reviewing this will be very interesting. Taping the paper to the glass, she continued to say, I will go ahead and stick tomorrow's lesson up too, because you will want to practice beforehand. Sylvain Noxerel leaned in close and asked, You can still see clearly in there, right? She was surprised to realize, contrary to my prediction that he would refuse to learn, Mel quite liked reading and writing. What a peaceful day, Sylvain Noxerel thought to herself. Perhaps both Mel and I feel this is the first time we have experienced such peacefulness. Her clear eyes held a hint of thoughtfulness. Perhaps Mel and I. Sylvain Noxerel gently pressed her hand against the glass where Mel's hand was. The two looked at each other in silence, both feeling that this was the first time they shared the same emotion. With the added thought, can I define it as happiness? A knock sounded at the door. Surveillant Noxerel's voice replied. "Come in." A servant appeared, timidly announcing, "Young lady, the teacher has arrived." Immediately after, Bloomy Hexavim entered and spoke, "Young lady Surveillant." Her voice rang out, reminding, "It is time for lessons," while Surveillant Noxerel carefully drew the curtain back over the tank where Mel was. She thought, "A peaceful life I rarely have to hide Mel from those who enter this room, but the real purpose is not to let Mel see me like this." I had instructed the servants to speak carefully. Bloomy Hexavim sat down beside Surveillant Noxerel's bed and spoke. After the last lesson, has the young lady reviewed? She had carefully calculated and changed examination and treatment to lesson and used it as a code. Bloomy Hexavim took her pulse and assessed, "The young lady's learning progress is too slow." She stated, "I will give you new books," and Surveillant Noxerel implicitly understood this meant she would prescribe new medicine because her condition had not improved. Sighing, she thought to herself, "Even though it is meaningless, still." Bloomy Hexavim adjusted her glasses and instructed, "Morning and evening, even if you are sleepy, young lady, you must try to read all of it." After the examination, she stood up and bowed to Surveillant Noxerel. "Today's lesson is concluded." The servant next to her was attentive, yet almost slipped up, but managed to stop in time. "Teacher, the examination, the lesson is over. Shall I call the carriage?" Bloomy Hexavim gently said, "Before that, I have to meet the Duke today." The servant walked ahead, leading the way. "I will take the teacher to the office." Before leaving, she turned to look at Surveillant Noxerel on the bed and said, "We will meet again tomorrow. Rest well, young lady." She did not reply, her mind instead asking, "Tomorrow?" Surveillant Noxerel remembered the lesson content she had prepared for Mel. "How long can I continue to wait until tomorrow? Even so." A hint of anticipation was in her heart. If that tomorrow really comes, it would be wonderful. The next day, the Noxerel family's manor appeared before her eyes. Tomorrow arrived as promised, but the one who made the appointment to meet again did not. Seeing Bloomy Hexavim outside the gate, Surveillant Noxerel knew. Clearly, Father dismissed the main treating doctor after receiving a report on my condition. Since then, the doctor has been changed once every 3 days. She closed her eyes to rest, her mind echoing with the assessments of her illness, which had been coded as lessons. "You must study a bit more, young lady. Although there are many types of books, you must read all of them." These are the new books introduced this time. Surveillant Noxerel felt that the pain had not subsided, and her physical condition was worsening. Perhaps this is just a false happiness. Remembering Mel, she thought, I used the excuse that I do not have long to live and kept Mel in the tank, because perhaps Mel thinks the same as me. Surveillant Noxerel comforted herself. However, this feeling is the first I have ever experienced in my life. Only this emotion remains unchanged. She gently opened the curtain, covering the tank, and cheerfully said, "Hello, Mel. Have you reviewed your lessons?" She wondered, can I hold on to this happiness a little longer? Surveillant Noxerel did not dare to face Mel for long and quickly turned her back to him, softly asking, "So you know what today's vocabulary will be, right?" she resolved, "even if I have to atone for all my sins later." Surveillant Noxerel's voice rang out, "Today we will learn about family," while her mind prayed, "Just a little more, just a little more." In the distance, the Noxerel family manor stood majestically amidst the vast land. Surveillant Noxerel and Mel, separated by a pane of glass, quietly studied together. The fin behind his ear sparkled, emitting a beautiful light. Suddenly, Surveillant Noxerel softly called, "Mel." She was curious, and then hesitantly asked, "Mel, do you also have a family?" He reached out and wrote on the glass. Seeing his movement, Surveillant Noxerel could not help but be surprised. Following the lines Mel wrote, she was not quite sure, so she asked again, "See, you wrote, see." Surveillant Noxerel wondered, "Why the sea? Is your family in the sea?" She was about to guess a different answer. If not, then she realized, "Are you saying your family is the sea?" Mel smiled radiantly, his eyes full of joy. Surveillant Noxerel paused slightly. This is the first time I have seen Mel make such an expression. She focused on the book in her hand, but her heart was sad. He must really love the sea, and I have taken away Mel's family. She was thinking, someday, I will take him back to the sea, but for now. Suddenly, Surveillant Noxerel noticed a small sparkling object in the tank. Her eyes became panicked. "Mel, you..." Surveying Noxerel pressed against the glass to see clearly, then cried out in fear. What is it? Aren't those all your scales? Since when did you become like this? Huh, where do you hurt? Looking at Mel's tail, which had turned gray, she worried. They said the wounds at the lake were treated before, so why? Her hand unconsciously clenched. Surveying Noxerel blurted out, could it be? Carefully observing, she considered a possibility. It is because of the tank. Surveying Noxerel felt fearful. That is right. Previously in the tank, your condition also gradually worsened. She blamed herself. Thinking only of my own pain, I completely ignored Mel's condition. Her eyes gradually became startled, her mind in turmoil. If he continues to stay in this tank, Mel will... Surveying Noxerel bit her lip tightly in fear, to keep herself from crying. She decided, let us go back to the lake, Mel. He looked at her anxious expression, bewildered. Surveying Noxerel's face was extremely pale now. She softly said to Mel, first, because the fire was so big, I have to check the situation at the lake. She called out, water manager. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out, Surveying. Surveying Noxerel could not believe her ears and immediately turned towards the person who had just called her name, Bathhouse. This time, it was Mel who felt panicked, his eyes wide with a hint of fear. He quickly said, wait, Surveying, I can't go back to the lake yet. Surveying Noxerel exclaimed in surprise. Mel, she said glumly, you have surprised me many times today. Mel called out gloomily, Surveying. Surveying Noxerel's angry voice echoed in the air. Since when could you speak? How long were you planning to deceive me? Looking at the lesson content pasted on a glass, she said bitterly, I even thought we were gradually becoming close. Was I the only one who thought that? Mel hurriedly explained in fear. No, Surveying, it is just that I... Surveying Noxerel cut him off, screaming, I do not want to hear it. She desperately said, how can I be sure that what you are saying now is not a lie? Mel frantically called. Surveying, ignoring his words, Surveying Noxerel grabbed the curtain. Her hand unconsciously clenched. She said decisively, I need time to clear my mind. See you tomorrow, Mel. The curtain was quickly pulled across by Surveying Noxerel, obscuring Mel's anxious face. He called out to her in vain, Surveying. Controlling her emotions with great effort, Surveying Noxerel sadly turned and left. Scene change, a pocket watch showed 3:15. Bloomy Hexavime appeared faintly in her vision. Seeing movement, she turned to look and joyfully said, Finally, you are awake, young lady. Surveying Noxerel's weak voice rang out, You. Carefully observing for a moment, Bloomy Hexavime softly suggested, Can you sit up? Then she gently helped Surveying Noxerel lean against the headboard, stating, If you take your medicine, you will feel less pain for a while. Having just barely stabilized, Surveying Noxerel's face was covered in sweat. You were dismissed, why are you back? Bloomy Hexavime did not answer, but gently asked back, I am curious to know how talented the doctors the Duke invited are, to have dismissed me. She looked at the other person and asked, So has your question been answered? She then stated, I have reviewed the medical records and found nothing unusual, and more importantly... Bloomy Hexavime's voice rang out, Now I do not need to say, lesson, anymore, do I? Surveying Noxerel held the glass of water in her hand and replied glumly, Yes, because I have taken him to the lake. She thought to herself, that promise to meet again tomorrow, I did not keep. And I took Mel to the lake. Under the moonlight, he was all alone. Looking at the familiar scene in the room, Surveying Noxerel's mind calculated, First, I want to apologize to him and slowly talk to Mel again. However, her dying body encountered problems. The image of her lying motionless on the bed, letting the servants care for her, reappeared in her mind. Surveying Noxerel felt helpless. Right now, I truly feel death approaching. There is not much time left to be with him. Staring intently at the glass of water in her hand, she decided, I must go see him quickly. Bloomy Hexavime's voice rang out, advising, You know it is not possible right now, do not you? Wouldn't it be better to just keep that pet in the tank? Surveying Noxerel quickly explained. No, the tank is not suitable for merfolk to live in. She watched her drink water and then hesitantly offered. Anyway, at this moment, the will to live is very important. Bloomy Hexavime's voice rose in comfort. If you want to see that merman again, you must recover as quickly as possible. Surveying Noxerel, still looking very tired, heard this and agreed. That is right. Seeing that they had been talking for a long time, she stood up, not forgetting to encourage her before leaving. Good, don't give up. As long as the young lady does not give up, I will also try my best. Servine Noxerel felt quite surprised and softly called out, "Hey!" She wanted to know this doctor's identity. "What is your name? Come to think of it, I have never heard it before." She replied cheerfully, "Bloomy Hexavime. You can call me Bloomy or Hexavime, whatever you like. Please rely on me a lot in the future, young lady." From that day on, Servine Noxerel continued to receive treatment from Bloomy. Even so, the pain still visited frequently, but occasionally her health improved enough for her to walk around the mansion. Stopping before a window, Servine Noxerel looked out at the sunny scenery, wondering, "I wonder if Mel has read the letter." She began writing letters to Mel again. Last time, because of Mel's ability, Servine Noxerel had ordered only male servants to deliver letters, but a guard reported to her, "I was told that at midnight the knights discovered someone running towards the lake and stopped them." Servine Noxerel realized, it seems Mel's enchanting ability is not gender-related. Her mind could not help but worry, while waiting for the day she could see Mel again. Scene change. A very well-dressed person appeared at the grand entrance of the Noxerel family's castle. The servants who greeted him were also very respectful. This person was none other than Rahan Noxerel. 2 years prior, the uncle who had left the mansion had returned. On the table, a hot cup of tea steamed. His voice rang out, "You have grown much thinner since we last met, Servine." Looking at Servine Noxerel opposite him, Rahan Noxerel worried. "Your illness has not improved, has it? Is it all right for you to be out like this?" She softly replied, "Occasionally, it is fine." His expression seemed displeased. "Don't you want anything? Didn't you used to like the gifts I gave you?" Servine Noxerel brought the teacup to her lips to drink, then replied, "That is right." She sighed inwardly. As soon as he saw me, he hugged me tightly and cried for a long time. And now he looks like he wants to cry again. Rahan Noxerel was her uncle, 1 year older than her. He proactively boasted, "Oh right, I bought a gift on this trip." Hearing this, she thought to herself, Uncle's personality is still the same, kind, gentle, and sensitive. Servine Noxerel recalled her happy childhood with this uncle. Before Mother passed away, he was the only one who visited her in this mansion. The reason this uncle left the mansion 2 years ago, it was because Uncle was the illegitimate child of the family, that fragile uncle. He could not bear the guilt of harming the family, and the constant contempt and ridicule. Servine Noxerel's eyes showed a hint of sadness. If it were Uncle, he would surely feel remorse for leaving her alone. It sounded funny, but he was the one who made her feel sorrow. She looked up at the person in front of her, understanding clearly in her heart that this time he would not say anything, but soon enough he would leave again. At the same time, Rahan Noxerel excitedly spoke, "Here, look, Servine." A bracelet made of seashells and coral appeared on the table. His voice rang out, "It is not expensive jewelry, but it is very beautiful, is not it? I thought you would like it, so I bought it for you." Servine Noxerel picked up the bracelet, smiled softly. "It is truly beautiful. I love it." She thought of someone in her heart. This would suit Mel very well. Rahan Noxerel also felt happy. Goodness. Do you want anything else? She honestly replied, "Other things are fine, but this bracelet, I want to give it to someone." He asked in surprise, "Someone you want to give it to?" Servine gently explained, "I am raising a merman. He used to be in the water tank in my room, but now he is in the lake." Rahan Noxerel was even more surprised. "A merman? Is your friend's name Merman?" She hesitated, explaining, "No, a real merman." He grinned. "So that is it, a merman? You know, Servine." Rahan's voice continued, adding a legend he had once heard. "I heard that in some areas, mermaids will become sea gods." His voice continued, "But conversely, there are also stories that in other areas, mermaids turn into salt water." Hearing this, the beautiful image of Mel appeared in Servine Noxerel's mind. Seeing her unresponsive, Rahan Noxerel gently asked, "What do you think? It is very interesting, is not it?" She thought to herself. "He completely does not believe what I am saying." It is understandable. Normally, if you tell someone a story about a merman, they would have a hard time believing it right away. Looking at the watch on his hand, he exclaimed in alarm, "Oh dear! We have to stop talking now. It has been a long time since I saw your father, so I have something to tell him. Rahan Noxarel stood up, and before leaving, thoughtfully advised, "Rest well, Sir Vane. I will come see you again." Sir Vane Noxarel watched his retreating figure with a bit of curiosity. This time, how long will Uncle stay before leaving? She looked at the pretty bracelet she had just received, calculating in her heart. This might be a stubborn act, but if I give this to Mel through a servant, maybe he will gradually accept my apology. I know this thought is cowardly, but if I can salvage my relationship with Mel this way. That night, Sir Vane Noxarel could not sleep, holding the bracelet her uncle had given her. Shells, clam shells from the deep blue ocean. She suddenly thought of his world, a world she had never seen before. Not just this bracelet. If she could, Sir Vane Noxarel also wanted to give him everything she had. This mansion, her status, her family, everything she possessed, regardless of whether he needed it. Sir Vane Noxarel suddenly heard an argument. The situation is very serious right now. Do not, From the slightly ajar door of a nearby room, the voice of the head of the Noxarel family rang out, "Rahan, you are overly worried. I know the situation in the capital is tense, that in reality, no one can touch the ducal family." Rahan's voice replied. Sir Vane Noxarel's footsteps tiptoed closer, secretly wondering, isn't that uncle's and father's voice? The royal family, tense situation. What are they talking about? The head of the Noxarel family's voice continued. As you said, the Noxarel family siding with the royal family is a well-known fact. But according to your assumption, if the rebels attack the ducal family... Outside the door, she clearly heard her father's firm intention. I cannot send Sir Vane away. He sternly reminded, have you forgotten? That child is the heir to the family. Rahan Noxarel shot up, rebutting, if so, only you are left. Why must that frail child become the heir? Sir Vane Noxarel's tears fell, as she heard his voice suddenly tremble. You were the one who abandoned her first. I know I have no right, but how can such a fragile child? Her father's voice roared. Rahan? He no longer concealed it. Uncle must have realized. Outside, Sir Vane Noxarel noticed her father's voice had grown tram. Sir Vane has no hope left. He choked out. Perhaps she won't make it past this month. Her eyes suddenly widened, but her pupils constricted in horror. In the room, only the voice of the head of the Noxarel family rang out. I have summoned all famous doctors, tried every possible method. I brought doctors here for emergencies, not to expect anything to change. From your perspective, you will feel regrettable, but nothing will change. Sir Vane Noxarel stood frozen outside the door. Her father's voice continued. Anyway, she will die soon. As an heir to the ducal family, considering an honorable death is the only option left for that child. Rahan's voice trembled. So you gave up from the very beginning. He choked, pausing several times before finishing the sentence. After Madame passed away even once, that child... Sir Vane Noxarel's frail body sank to the floor, her head buried in her knees. She thought miserably, I do not want to hear their conversation anymore. I have imagined my own end to the point of boredom. I thought, if it came early, it would be in 3 years. At least through the winter. Remembering the joyful moments with Mel, she felt bitter. I thought I could welcome spring with him. Tears, uncontrollable, streamed down like rain. Outside, snow was falling heavily. Sir Vane Noxarel decided, if this life has less than a month left, I know what I must do. Now I must take him back to his world, to his family and his origins, to the sea. Through the leaves, the sky above was desolate. A chilling silence enveloped the space. A hand reached out to catch the snowflakes. Mel carefully observed, then worriedly exclaimed, the lake can't freeze, it seems. His eyes suddenly moved slightly, as if he had discovered something unexpected. Seeing Sir Vane Noxarel running towards him, Mel cried out, Sir Vane. She happily spoke. Hello, Mel? Long time no see, huh? Sir Vane Noxarel stood on the shore, hesitating. Have you been well all this time? Mel, a little unhappy, gently questioned, you sent me to the lake without a word, and did not even bother to send a letter. What are you doing here now? She lowered her eyes and sadly explained, I am sorry. I wanted to come sooner, but my health would not allow it. In the bitter cold winter, Sir Vane Noxarel's voice rang out. Have you read the letter I sent, Mel? a voice replied. Number. Sitting down by the lake, she was disappointed. Is that so? Surveying Noxural's eyes stared straight ahead, but the figure in front of her remained blurry. Her voice was disheartened. I should have brought my glasses. Mel did not understand and asked, what? Surveying Noxural thought to herself, perhaps this is better. She gently suggested, Mel, can't you come closer? I have something I want to tell you. Seeing him silently look at her, Surveying Noxural regretted in her heart, if I could clearly see Mel's appearance right now, I would not be able to send him away. Her voice gently admitted her fault. I am sorry. I never thought you were a decoration, a pet, or an unimportant life. In that moment, I was too angry and blurted out thoughtless words. It was my fault. I want you to remember me as a strong person. The snow fell thicker as Surveying Noxural's voice continued. Actually, all this time, when I could not come to see you, Her mind was clearer than ever now. I would rather be a strong person among the people he has met than a weak, pitiful person, only receiving pity, so that even if he remembers things about me someday in the future, he won't feel sad. Noticing Mel had come closer, Surveying Noxural hesitated. No, today, I have come to take you back to the sea. Hearing this, he was a little surprised. What? Why are you suddenly saying that? At a very close distance, Mel realized something was wrong and worriedly asked, And, Surveying, why is your face? Surveying Noxural's face, apart from her rosy cheeks due to the cold, was bloodless elsewhere. Mel cried out in alarm. Daphne once said that only after you die can I leave this place. Could it be Surveying you? Her cutting reply stunned him. Yes, that is right. No mistake. Mel wondered, I heard that human lifespans are at least 80 years, but why do you want to die already? Surveying Noxural laughed and explained, So you merfolk do not know about human death. It is not like you think, but more importantly, I have brought you a gift. She put the beautiful seashell bracelet on his wrist and said, My uncle, who traveled far, brought it back. As soon as I saw it, I immediately thought of you, and when you return to the sea, you will see many things like shells and snails. Mel touched the bracelet on his wrist, lost in thought. Surveying Noxural praised, Indeed, it suits you very well. He frowned slightly in thought, then spoke, Surveying, I do not understand you. Lowering his face slightly, Mel's voice was a little aggrieved. Suddenly, you imprisoned me in a water tank, then left me at the lake, then abruptly would not let me see your face but sent a letter. Surveying Noxural's eyes were a little troubled. Then she heard him ask, And now you suddenly say, You are sending me away. Mel's figure at this moment became tragically lonely. You always do as you please, Surveying. Suddenly, he made a request. 1 month. Mel came closer, looking directly into Surveying Noxural's eyes, pleading, I want to be with you for 1 more month. She was silent, not knowing how to reply. Then he continued, If so, I will be fine. Surveying Noxural remembered the words she had once spoken to Mel. You think that I, like this, love you because I am enchanted by your abilities? I am influenced by something you can't control. This is not love, but possessive greed. The Noxural family is like that. This feeling, who knows, might be due to the ability Mel mentioned. Perhaps mental obsession, possessive greed? But even so, what then this message I want to convey to him right at this moment? Surveying Noxural's hand gently touched the other's cheek, then softly called, Mel. She gathered all her courage and admitted, I love you. I truly love you. All right, 1 month. I want to be with you for as long as this life of mine allows. Noticing Mel gently took her hand, Surveying Noxural's mind was incredibly curious. What expression is Mel making? Even close up, I can't see. Is he looking at me with eyes like a silver moon in the gentle blue sky, blaming me for imprisoning him in the lake? Surprisingly, at this moment, she could clearly see his beautiful face and crying eyes. Seemingly unsure, Surveying Noxural was a little doubtful. It seems I saw something sparkling, similar to tears in my blurry vision, but I did not try to ask why. The castle window appeared. She half lay, half sat on the sofa, resting, worried in her heart. I am afraid to hear the answer. Surveying Noxural mused, 1 month. 1 month! Huh, I wish I could keep my promise to Mel. Then she tiredly closed her eyes and vaguely heard someone call her name, Surveying. That person said that if mermaids die, they will become seawater. So even if mermaids die, they can meet again in the sea. Mel had then asked her, If you die, where can I meet you? Sylvain Noxerel thought for a moment, then hesitantly replied, "Let us see, in the mansion, perhaps." She looked towards the Noxerel family's castle. "You can see where I live, right? No need to come see me. Because that is land, you can't come." Sylvain Noxerel told herself, "If I can get through this month, it will be a miracle. Even so, I want to get through it, this month, at all costs." Suddenly, a voice outside the door startled her. "Sylvain, may I come in?" Sylvain Noxerel softly replied, "Come in." Rahan Noxerel entered, happily asking, "Did you sleep well, Sylvain?" She was surprised to see him carrying luggage. "What is wrong, Uncle?" Rahan Noxerel tenderly. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" Sylvain Noxerel calmly spoke. "It would have been better if you told me sooner." Looking at the luggage in his hand, her voice rang out. "It seems you do not have time for such things." Looking at the person in front of her, Sylvain Noxerel was a little curious. "Don't you need a private carriage?" Rahan Noxerel awkwardly replied. Sylvain, because something urgent has come up." She calmly spoke what she had heard. "It is fine, I know, because I have heard a brief overview. Our family might fall with the royal family. The rebels in the capital, in terms of distance, will arrive in another month." His hands were a little uneasy. "Indeed, you know, but Sylvain, there is one thing you said wrong." Rahan Noxerel lowered his face and said in a deep voice, "Not after a month, but today." He frankly stated, "The situation is changing rapidly. Everyone in the mansion will know soon, tonight." Sylvain Noxerel's eyes widened in horror. Rahan's voice continued, "This entire place will be engulfed in flames." A truly fake family portrait appeared. The window opened. Sylvain stood before the window, gazing afar, the night wind blowing her hair back, moonlight streaming through the window onto her. She looked down at the medicine bottle in her hand, her eyes vacant. Her hand gripped the medicine bottle tightly. She immediately recalled when Rahan argued with her. Rahan slammed his hand on the table. "Sylvain, this situation is no joke. You won't leave, even though you clearly know the situation of the ducal family." In the room, Rahan stood opposite his niece, his hand resting on the table. "Is it because of the ducal family's honor that you are saying that? You do not need to think about it. You just need to keep living, like your peers do." She opened her mouth to reply immediately, "Keep living." Her eyes became lifeless. 1 month or 2 months. I have no hope left. Uncle knows that too. Dying at the hands of rebels, or dying from illness in a shelter as predicted, it is no different. Uncle, I have wanted to say this for a long time, ever since the day you could not bear the contempt and disdain from this mansion and left, until now. The words pierced Rahan like a sharp knife. He stared at his niece in surprise. Rahan immediately slumped into the chair behind him, silently listening to his niece. Endure, endure, and endure. Then to what extent must one endure? Run away and run away, but then where to run? So live as you wish. When you hate enduring, then do not endure anymore. It will be the same in the future. Just live where you want, even if you live in hardship, and fall into an unavoidable situation. But seeing his retreating back, Rahan began to shed copious tears, trembling, his lips tightly bitten. I thought how wonderful it would be if Uncle could live like that for the rest of his life. Sylvain pushed a necklace towards Rahan. "Take this, Uncle." He immediately asked his niece, "Sylvain, this..." She maintained the same attitude, unchanged. "It is father's secret." Rahan picked up the necklace. Endless sparkles shone around its pendant. Rahan frowned and said to Sylvain, "This is the symbol of the family head. I can't carry it, Sylvain. Perhaps you have given up, but I have not. You too. Are you looking down on your uncle, who is only a year older than you? Don't give up. You can live. I will make it so." She sat silently, saying nothing. Her eyes drooped. "Let us see." "Will I live if I am reborn?" Rahan trembled, tears welling up in his eyes. His palms clenched together. "Sylvain, if you do not go, I will find another way, and I will temporarily keep this and return it to you. Just wait for me a little." Rahan softly reminded his niece, "Sylvain, you must be healthy. Let us meet again, surely." That day, Rahan left the mansion. Everyone in the mansion did not believe Rahan, who had abandoned the ducal family himself. They also saw my words as the lies of a dying person. The scene before my eyes was a castle, blood splattered on the ramparts like a bloody painting. Suddenly, a scream rang out. Kia! After midnight, around dawn, before my father passed away, the rebels had set fire to the mansion. Before it is too late, hurry up. The rebels themselves had entered the mansion, killed everyone in it, and set it on fire. The maids ran in panic. What are those girls doing? Can't they hurry up? Has the young lady returned from the lake yet? The urging voice had not finished. Quick, when blood splattered on the floor, and a scream rang out. Kia! A maid anxiously turned to look for her mistress. Young lady. In the room, Servain was sitting on the bed. The maid rushed in and said to her, "The rebels have set fire to the mansion. We will guide you, young lady. Please prepare quickly." She calmly replied, "No need, and please help me with one thing." The maid was surprised, then panicked. "What, young lady? It seems you still do not know about the current situation. The rebel forces are overflowing into this place." She stepped off the bed. "I know." "If you know, then why?" Her hand gently touched the nearby table, her eyes filled with thoughts. "My treasures, all of them are yours. Take anything you want. And you must do what I ask." The maid was startled when Servain spoke, "Young lady." She spoke of Mel with a heavy heart, the merman, Mel. "Help me take him back to the sea. This is my last wish, and my will." The maid, upon hearing this, clenched her dress. Trembling, she took Servain's hand. "I will definitely take responsibility and do what you have asked." The maid handed her a purple vial. "This is." The Duke said that even if young lady wanted to leave with Master Rahan, he would be willing to let go. Perhaps it is too late now, but perhaps my way of living before was wrong, but now I want to correct it, if anything happens to young lady. And so, now, she stood before the window, the red glow of the fire lit by the rebels shining through the window, looking very beautiful. She took the vial and drank it in one gulp. "Father asked me not to drink this unless it was a last resort." The clock kept ticking. "But if only I am left here, then Mel will be able to reach the sea smoothly without being pursued." She plopped down on the bed, hugging herself tightly, reassuring herself. "It is okay. It is okay. I will be fine. Haven't I imagined death countless times?" Her eyes were full of thoughts. If I had known this. Before her, the image of the merman Mel appeared. She was surprised, Mel. She reached out her hand, asking, "Why are you here? Did you come to see me? Then could you come a little closer to me?" Mel took her hand, pressed it to his face, and caressed it. "Yes, that is right. Thank you for coming." Her blood began to drip onto her pure white dress. "Mel, come to think of it, I have something I want to tell you." She smiled, blood still flowing from her mouth. "You still have not answered my confession. Won't you really tell me?" She extended her hand forward, but now Mel was no longer there, and before her eyes was a shimmering light. She gently, "You truly are." The light enveloped her, her voice growing weaker, a miser. The flames were gradually engulfing the Duke's mansion. A magnificent mansion now being consumed by fire. Mel was in the lake, looking at the mansion, a red scene erupting before his eyes. The next day, the morning sun was shining on the royal castle. The throne fell. A voice rang out, "The era has changed." The crown fell. The people cheered. The royal lineage has reclaimed the usurped throne, and loyal subjects joyfully welcomed the returning king. Everything went according to plan. Everything unfolded smoothly. A field of vibrant yellow flowers bloomed, a beautiful sight. "No, Grandpa, mermaids live in the sea, in salt water, but the lake is fresh water. For a merman, is not this lake more like a prison?" On the bed was Rahan, beside him was his niece, also named Servain, so that is not love, but possession. If the merman were still alive, perhaps at this moment. He reached out and stroked her head. "Yes, Servain, you are indeed very clever." Rahan looked very gentle, watching her sitting by the bed. The more he looked, the more he saw her resemblance to that child. He had said this 100 times. Rahan Noxarel was now 96 years old. Rahan gently said, "Servain, besides that, I have something to tell you today." She immediately looked up, listening intently. "It is something I have always wanted to tell you for a long time. My great-grandfather, who had Alzheimer's, was the one who told me I resembled his grandchild hundreds of times. Endure, endure, and endure, and not know how much more to endure." Run away, and run away, but where to run to? So live the way you want. When you hate enduring, do not endure anymore. She was astonished to hear these words. Before he passed away, my grandfather that day was very lucid, clear-headed, and intelligent. He smiled, his eyes welling up. Go where you want, and live happily, okay? Just like he used to be. He looked out the window with her. Thinking back, the daffodils outside had bloomed so much. The wind blew through the window, surveying eyes. She stood before his grave, remembering his words, so much like you. The gravestone bore his name, Rahan Naxirel. The wind blew past her, her hair flying in the breeze. She held the necklace that Servain had given to her uncle, and now Rahan had given back to his granddaughter. She stood before his grave, surrounded by blooming yellow flowers. Grandpa, she looked at the necklace and remembered his words. He once told me to do whatever I wanted. She clenched the necklace. I will. To restore, her eyes were resolute, looking up at the sky and making a promise to her grandfather. Family honor. I will live for our Naxirel family. In the royal castle, she slammed her hand on the table, except for one thing. Proshin nervously raised his hands. Calm down and listen to me first. Aren't I calmly listening to you, Your Highness? Hearing that, Proshin gave a wry smile, not knowing how to respond. Servant's face was so twisted she gritted out each word. So when will our family be restored? Proshin immediately replied, You know there are many bad rumors. Do not you? Like, if you go to that place, you will disappear. She glared directly at Proshin. That is why we are bringing dozens of knights. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Why do you think my great-grandfather left you the knights he prepared to protect me? He stammered. But, he took her hand, looking pathetic. Do you know how scared I am? He put his hand to his face and began to complain. The road is so dark, and what is more, because of you, I believe in superstitions. She snapped back. What does that have to do with me? Just seeing you makes me think that things like curses really exist in this world. You are so unlucky you can't even sail a boat. There is always a problem, as soon as you get near the sea. She frowned thoughtfully. You are clearly cursed by the sea. Smack. Proshin's head got a bump. He grumbled, How dare you do that to the crown prince? She crossed her arms and turned her face away. If it bothers you, bestow a title, because right now I am not a duke or anything. Suddenly a voice spoke up. Calm down. Servain? Mina stood behind her. Everyone knows you and I will become dukes, so there is no need to worry so much, right? She crossed her arms and looked Proshin directly in the face. But to me, this is a very important matter. Tell me, Proshin, I asked for a title, but you changed the subject to that mansion. Why is that? He broke out in a sweat, stammering. Well, something unexpected came up. Luckily, someone is living there. Hearing that, she frowned. What? Someone? Yes, so if you want your ducal title back, a young man with black hair, wearing a white shirt, appeared before the villa, looking very mysterious, but also very handsome. We have to deal with that person first. His eyes are very beautiful, but also very dangerous. Are you saying? Proshin gasped in surprise. He knelt on the ground, head bowed, listening to Servain scold him. You handed over the ducal family to a stranger, because you assumed I had relatives, he stammered back. Because the mansion was too old to prepare it, I asked that person to manage it. Servain's hands clenched together. Proshin, I never told you I had relatives. And have you forgotten? I took you in, a person with nothing, wandering the alleys, a dependent guest, and the only thing I awaited until you regained your position. She frowned, enunciating each word was the ducal title and the mansion. Minael gently touched her shoulder, advising, Servain, Proshin was wrong to act on his own, but you never told us about your family. Proshin surely genuinely wanted to return the mansion to you. He has tried his best. Her eyebrows furrowed tightly, her eyes full of thoughts. More than 100 years had passed since our Naxirel family sided with the king and was overthrown by rebels. Although we helped Proshin, the royal bloodline, ascend to the throne, due to the noble faction, the monarchy was still weak, to the point where even the king was forced to bow, and the knights outside dared not intervene. She was so angry she wanted to rush over and beat Proshin. Minael had to hold her back. Servain, she struggled. let go. Minael, this is a good chance to give this guy a beating. Despite that, I am still angry. Then she softened her voice, reaching out to help Proshin. All right, stand up. A king cannot easily kneel before others like that. Proshin took her hand. Sylvain. He stood up, looked at her, and said, I want the mansion in the best condition, and to return it to you. His hand gently touched her. I was thoughtless. I know how much you want to reclaim that mansion. His eyes welled up, his face looking pathetic as he gazed at her. I am truly sorry. She was thinking, has this guy grown this tall already? When did boys get so tall anyway? I do not get it. She turned her back and walked away. Oh, it is over now. Miniel looked at her. Sylvain, you are not angry anymore, right? He reached out to her. I apologize. She then asked Proshin, tell me, what kind of person is he? I need to know his appearance and how many people are living in the mansion. One person. Hearing that, she glared. What? No way, you said everyone who went there disappeared. He could be the culprit. How could it be just one person? He patiently explained, it is really just one. While that person was talking to me, the knights searched the entire mansion, and he gave off a very strange vibe. At this point, Proshin's eyes suddenly became sharper. He made me feel scared. A chill ran down my spine. But at the same time, he gave me a sense of sorrow. The image of Mel appeared, his eyes empty, his skin white as snow. That feeling of immense loneliness. Ah, really? You fell for him at first sight, so you bestowed the ducal title. Proshin's eyes widened in surprise, not expecting her to say that. His eyes softened, his cheeks flushed. He looked at her, fell in love at first sight, huh? His cheeks flushed, his gaze at her gentle, yes, maybe that is it. Proshin smiled brightly, looking like a handsome golden fox. He is so incredibly handsome, his whole being just radiates light. I mean, handsome enough to make even men swoon. She frowned, looking at him. Miniel looked at Proshin and judged, this is a poet, not a king. The Noxerel ducal villa grew darker than ever, black crows taking flight. She arrived at the villa. She stood with her hands on her hips, carrying her handbag, looking at her villa. She thought to herself, this is the Noxerel mansion. It does not look like anyone lives here. From the outside, it looks grand and magnificent, but instead of beautiful, it gives off a gloomy and solitary feeling, yet strangely familiar. Is it because I heard my great-grandfather talk about it every day that I feel this way? She walked into the villa, still thinking, I do not know why, but I keep feeling like I hear Grandpa's voice. She reached out to open the door. Her eyes narrowed, no guard. I guess I can just walk right in, right? This is my own mansion, after all. The door swung wide open. She slowly stepped in. What? No one? She pondered. Walking in like this suddenly reminds me of the story Grandpa used to tell me, until it haunted my ears. Sylvain raised the necklace, admiring it. It is strange. I do not remember receiving this necklace, but I remember that story very clearly. She mouthed the words, the little girl. The necklace swayed in her hand. She had a very beautiful mermaid, whose frail body could not leave the mansion, so the girl cherished this mermaid very much. Therefore, she locked the mermaid in a tank. Suddenly, a voice called her name, Sylvain. A man stepped out, his shirt carelessly revealing his abs. He asked, Sylvain, right? No, Grandpa, let us just assume it is the mermaid you talked about. Footsteps descended, so the mermaid is not still trapped in the water tank, waiting for your granddaughter. Her eyes widened, surprised, speechless, if that story is true. Perhaps that mermaid. Interrupting her thoughts, he grabbed her wrist, calling her name Sylvain. Mel took her hand and pressed it to his face, his expression pitiful as he looked at her. Why are you making such a face? He gently kissed her hand. Sylvain, why are not you answering? As if someone... Suddenly, Mel's eyes turned sharp. Has committed some sin. Sylvain nervously backed away. Ha! This man... Mel still held her hand, stroking his own face. He is the mermaid from great-grandfather's story. She startled, pulling her hand free from his. She feigned a pitiful expression, rubbing her wrist. Duke, please calm down. You seem to be confusing me with someone else. Because getting closer, I can be sure. His eyes became sharp, looking very scary. The smell of death permeated his flesh, a scent only detectable on a battlefield. To this day, how many people has he killed? Anyway, Mel clutched his own wrist. lost in thought like a pet abandoned by its owner. "Sylvain, why are you avoiding me?" Mel let his hands drop, looking at her and saying, "I have always been here waiting for you to come. Every day I wondered if you had forgotten me. Then I thought, the 1-month promise passed, and even though time changed, you still did not come." Mel remembered the image of Sylvain hugging him, only you did not. He reached out his hand. "Are you going to leave me again? Why?" He commanded, "Come here." His eyes became empty, commanding her, "Come here to me." She panicked. He has completely lost his mind. What was in Prochen's brain that he could talk to this monster? "I am sorry, but Duke, it seems I have come to the wrong place. So goodbye, Your Grace." She immediately turned and ran. "Even for an hour, I have to get out of here quickly." Her hand reached for the door. Suddenly, Mel's hand from behind blocked her. "Where are you going?" His voice was deep and warm, but that very voice made Sylvain panic. "Want to abandon me again?" Mel said with a sense of loneliness, the feeling of being abandoned decades ago. He pressed her with questions. "The promise to be together for a month. You broke your word. You do not know how long I have been waiting. Are you going to throw me away like those stuffed animals in your room? That is not right, is it, Sylvain? You can't leave me? Tell me, Sylvain." She froze in place, not knowing what to do. Suddenly Mel hugged her from behind, pleading with her, "Tell me you won't throw me away." She panicked. Indeed, he is confusing me with that frail granddaughter. Sylvain lowered her head, sighing, "Hey, a person who has died cannot exist in this world anymore. If they are dead, it is over. If you say that, the iron chain will deform in the mermaid's hand." Mel's eyes twinkled as he looked at her. His arm wrapped around her waist. She felt the strength of his grip. Looking at the strength of the arm around her waist, she already guessed. The rumored killer monster was the mermaid imprisoned in the lake by the great-granddaughter. And for some reason, the mermaid became human and chose to stay here instead of returning to the sea. Forcibly confined in the lake, yet desperately calling out the name of the one who imprisoned him. So indeed, the mermaid's current purpose is revenge. But I feel this hug is too desperate. Is it because our names are similar that I feel this way? Somewhere in his voice was filled with suffering. She felt pity for him. "Servant, what were your last words to me?" Suddenly Mel spoke, making her eyes widen in surprise. "I read it in a book." He leaned down to look at her. People who say such words... He prepared to kiss her flushed lips. Sylvain startled, pushing Mel away, yelling, "Duke!" Then she slowly explained, "Actually, I came here because His Majesty the King introduced me. I am Sylvain, who will assist His Grace the Duke from now on." She thought to herself, dangerous, too dangerous. She placed her hand on her chest, smiling as she introduced herself. "I will not leave the ducal family, so please do not worry." But in her mind, she was still wondering, what exactly did that granddaughter say to the mermaid? Mel asked Sylvain innocently, "What are you talking about? You are the Duke, Sylvain, and why have you been using honorifics with me all this time?" she stammered in response. That... Deep down, she was reassuring herself, "Calm down, Sylvain. I can't let myself get caught up in this. First, I have to explain that I am not that Sylvain, but in the current situation, I am not sure the mermaid will understand. Worst case scenario, perhaps..." She frowned, asking him, "Hey, I have something I want to." Mel seemed to realize something. "I understand. It was strange from the beginning. You kept pretending not to know me, and then wanted to run away. You..." Mel pressed his face close to hers. Is he crazy? Hearing that, she froze in place. Mel looked at her with cold eyes. "You are the Duke, and this mansion is also yours. Do you think I do not know? Why are you pretending not to know me? Are you really crazy?" She panicked. Startled? "I thought it was something else." I wanted to tell him who he was, but then he said that... But never mind. It can't go on like this. If it continues, the story will never end. I have to convince him that I am not that Sylvain. She then opened her mouth to speak to him. "You know, I have something to say." Mel cut her off. "I am Sylvain." Mel tenderly held a lock of her hair in his hand, smiling. "While waiting, I killed all those who coveted your possessions." He kissed the lock of her hair. "How was it? I did a good job, did not I?" Night fell over the villa. "Sylvain, let us go up to your room to rest." Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating the stairs. "Why are you standing still?" Mel stood with his arms crossed, leaning against the stairs. I said, let us go up to your room to rest. Servain stiffened, stammering, go. I have to go. She thought to herself, in the end, I still could not say what I wanted to say. Her eyelashes drooped. Right now, this man is testing me, seeing if I am that Servain. This is a kind of psychological tactic. She gently touched the stair railing. From now on, I have to immediately and naturally find the room that the Duke's daughter used. In this vast, unfamiliar mansion. But how? Moreover, this choice is too illogical. No, did I even have a choice from the beginning? She was scared, secretly looking at Mel walking behind her. If he really wants to get revenge on that Servain, I still do not know what he will do. Or he will think I covet his possessions and kill me like the other nobles. She walked and thought of her great-grandfather's granddaughter, Servain, the young lady Mel had longed for all this time. Suddenly she turned around, her eyes wide, as if seeing something. In her eyes appeared the image of Servain holding a book, looking very angry. Wake up, I told you to wake up. Servain threw the book and yelled. She opened her eyes wide in fear. She walked and pondered. What was that? I just heard a sound from that direction. What image was that? Suddenly Mel came beside her. It has been so long, but you still remember where your room is. That is good. She realized Servain's room was on the second floor. Ah, the room is on the second floor. Mel's face became gloomy. That is right. Even if you came back late, if you said you could not remember where your room was, I would be very upset, would not I? She stammered in reply. That is right. Ha ha ha. She walked and thought to herself, if I pick the wrong room, it will be a big problem. Suddenly, the figure of a young boy appeared before her eyes. Servain, what are you doing? She opened her eyes wide again. The boy smiled. This way, Servain. She mumbled. Who? She did not know. When she had arrived at the door of a room, she wondered, when did I get to the door? As she reached out to touch the doorknob, Mel suddenly stopped her. Don't open it. He was angry. What right do you have to open that room? She looked at Mel in surprise. What? So he really knows I am not that Servain. And it turns out the room really is here. Mel lowered his eyelids, pursed his lips, looking very pitiful. Then why do I still let someone who covets the mansion live? Forget trying to understand this existence. Who knows, his sanity might have completely collapsed from waiting for about 100 years. She looked at him, not knowing what to say, but for some reason, she felt that if they talked, they would understand each other. Thinking back, this mermaid's name might be... Suddenly she spoke up. Hey, Mel. Hearing that, his eyes widened in surprise. He stammered. What did you say? Mel cupped her face. How? How do you know my name? Could you really be Servain? She stammered. No, my great-grandfather. Mel hugged her tightly. Servain, I missed you. He hugged her so tightly, as if he did not want her to run away from him again. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I acted this way because I was afraid of entrusting this mansion to someone who was not you. Because I wanted to know what you said. I read many books while waiting for you. Do you remember? You were the one who taught me to read. He stammered, I mean, Servain. Mel stammered as if afraid she would run away from him again. I am not Servain. Yes, I am that Servain. I could not utter either of these sentences. An existence before me was saying that he had imprisoned himself, longing and waiting for a dead person for 100 years. Faced with this irrational love, no matter what I said, she touched his back. The outcome would still be tragic. I simply returned this hug. I just carried the person he could never see or meet. Servain replied to him, Mel, I missed you too. Just for a moment. Although he was a pitiful mermaid, since there was no longer a risk of dying by his hand, she closed her eyes and savored the moment. Servain's room door swung wide open, so to be honest, at that moment, Mel pinned her to the bed. I felt quite relieved. He pinned her hands down, face to face, until things turned out like this. Her two hands were clasped by him in an X shape. She stammered. Wait. Their current posture looked very ambiguous. Wait, let go of my hands, and... Mel replied, wait. His eyes turned cold. How long this time? That night, outside the Noxarel family mansion, the rain fell incessantly, its drumming sound drowning out all other noises in the dark night. In Servain Noxarel's bedroom, Rahan's granddaughter. The dim light from the window shone in, making the entire room flicker with light and shadow. At this moment, Servain Norxerel's eyes were wide with fright, her face dotted with sweat, her entire body stiff, before Mel's insistent questioning. Servain, I am asking you. He was still pinning her to the bed, despite Servain Norxerel's somewhat fearful expression. Mel's voice, angry and aggrieved, continued to ask. This time, how much longer do I have to wait? In this awkward situation, she thought to herself, even if we waited nearly 100 years to meet again, is not this immediately jumping into bed together? A sharp pain emanated from her wrist, where he was gripping it tightly, coupled with such strong pressure that Servain Norxerel could not move. She thought in horror. And this strength? What is it? My entire body is held rigid, so I can't use any force. At this moment, the rain outside continued to fall. Her heart could not help but worry, calculating, can I control this mermaid, or do I have to knock him out? Thinking it over, Servain Norxerel stared at Mel, carefully considering, no. First of all, can a mermaid even be knocked out? After looking at him for a long time, she could not help but hesitantly think. But to resort to such violence? Servain Norxerel was softened by Mel's fragile, weak appearance. The more she looked at him, the more she could not deny his beauty, secretly sighing, the mermaid in front of me is too delicate. He is breathtakingly beautiful. Mel waited for a long time without a response from Servain Norxerel, so he spoke a little urgently, whispering, Servain, do you know? He gently stroked her long, glossy hair, to Servain Norxerel's astonishment, then hesitated and honestly confessed. Actually, the first time I met you, I immediately thought of tiny coral. In the dim night, only the moonlight outside shone. Mel spoke softly, expressing his true feelings sincerely. If you heard me, you would probably ask why your father also has hair the same color. But are not you the only one who can become my coral? As he spoke, he slowly leaned down, his voice nostalgic and firm. Yes, because you, the person I know, are such a child. Seeing the situation was getting a bit dangerous, Servain Norxerel, who had managed to move one hand, reached up to pull Mel back and stop him. Wait. Seeing this, he immediately called her name Servain. Mel gently caressed Servain Norxerel's face, his eyes looking at her full of tenderness, his deep voice requesting, hug me. His eyes looking at her, and his words full of pain, made Servain Norxerel's eyes widen in surprise. She suddenly felt an unspoken heartache. That, wait, was too cruel. How much longer do I have to wait? Over time, I have been so afraid. Mel poured out all the feelings he had suppressed for so long. When you fell into the lake, I thought nothing could be worse, but waiting for you was much harder. He lay down, hugging her tightly, his fear and anxiety overflowing. His aggrieved voice revealed all the pain he had endured. I was cold and very lonely. Before Mel's unexpected embrace, Servain Norxerel's eyes widened in shock. For a moment, she did not know what to do, her entire body stiff. After hearing the sorrowful words he uttered, Servain Norxerel's eyes fell into thought. Her heart was filled with compassion, feeling awkward but unable to speak. I can't give a satisfactory answer. Thinking for a moment, Servain Norxerel hugged Mel and replied gently, yes, telling herself, this is what I can do for the merman. She gently held him tight, then whispered, trying to alleviate Mel's pain. However much you want, I will hold you that much. This was the only way Servain Norxerel could respond to him. And only now did she realize this. From the beginning, it had only ever been this. In the quiet room, the two comforted each other with a warm embrace. Servain Norxerel felt pity and thought, is he calling the name that could not be called for nearly 100 years? At this moment, Mel called her affectionately and confided, Servain, I was just thinking about you, enduring. 994. Throughout the conversation, what Servain Norxerel paid the most attention to was the way he spoke to her. From then on, the merman always began his sentences with that name. Mel tried to call her name as if he would never see her again tomorrow. His voice was sincere as he recounted what he had done. During the time you were not here, I read many books, Servain. I did that because I wanted to understand what you said to me. A moment later, Mel peacefully fell asleep in Servain Norxerel's arms. She gently stroked his hair, sighing in her heart. His voice is like a resonance in the silent ocean, like the hair of a merman. Mel's breath gently brushed against Servain Norxerel. She closed her eyes, feeling everything around her. In the quiet space, Servain Norxerel thought, his body temperature is warm. And his scent is like the grass I smelled by the clear lake. It seems like everything is temporarily fine. I should probably go to sleep now too. But a lingering question remained in her heart. She wondered, but it is strange. If you meet someone you love after such a long time... In her mind, surveying Norixel pictured a more reasonable scenario of Mel's reaction upon seeing her again. Why are you so late? What have you been doing? But his attitude was completely different, making surveying Norixel feel utterly perplexed and ask herself, wouldn't one be curious about what that person had been doing? Or where they had been? Outside, the rain continued to fall relentlessly, and in her heart, her curiosity grew without end. Mel, why did not you ask such questions? After that, surveying Norixel also fell asleep next to him. Later, when she recalled that day, she thought, that night, I had a dream. In the dream, old scenes appeared in surveying Norixel's mind, from when she was a child, in the house with blooming daffodils. It must have been winter then, because an image of a burning fireplace appeared in her dream. Beside the fireplace sat an elderly man with white hair in a wheelchair. Even though it was a dream, surveying Norixel immediately thought that familiar back. A pair of feet gently pushed open the door and slowly entered the room. The man's face appeared clearly in her dream, and surveying Norixel instantly recognized him, my great-grandfather. He slowly raised his trembling hands forward, his voice weak. Ah! As he reached forward, Rahan Norixel lost his balance, fell out of his wheelchair, and knelt on the ground. He shed tears, his voice trembling with joy, as he asked, I have missed you so much. Have you come to pick me up? Rahan Norixel struggled to grasp surveying Norixel's hand and called her name, Surveying. Surveying Norixel, with a distant expression, just stared at him. She looked at her dream face and exclaimed, my face looked so strange. In the dream, my great-grandfather begged for my forgiveness for promising to meet me, but coming too late. At that time, Rahan Norixel expressed with satisfaction, having met you one last time, I can now rest in peace. He held surveying Norixel's hand tightly, tears streaming down his face, his voice filled with remorse and gratitude. What I have kept for a very long time, I will return to you. Thank you for coming to see me, Surveying. In the dream, she only remembered that he begged for forgiveness for an unknown reason, and she replied, like him, no, thank you very much. At that moment, Surveying Norixel held the ancient necklace of the Noxerel family in her hand, silently praying for Rahan Norixel. Now, rest in peace, Uncle Rahan. This morning, when the sun rose and shone directly into the Norixel mansion, she recalled the dream from last night, and could not help but exclaim in astonishment. Everything feels as vivid as if it just happened yesterday. What a strange dream. The ancient necklace of the Noxerel family appeared in the dream, which made Surveying Norixel a little troubled. That is right, thinking back, it is really strange. When did I get this necklace? I do not remember anything about the day he passed away either. A gentle breeze drifted through the window, making the curtains sway softly, and the sunlight seized the opportunity to filter into the room. The breeze fluttered her hair, and Surveying Norixel gently tucked a lock of hair behind her ear. Her eyes thoughtfully regarded the clothes she was wearing, and she felt a pang of guilt, muttering to herself, and owning the item that proves me as the lady of the house. These clothes also belong to the mansion. I guess it is okay if I wear them. Surveying Norixel walked to the bedroom door, preparing to open it while thinking, I was not in the right frame of mind yesterday. Today, I have to tell the merman that I'm not that person. The door slowly creaked open, and at this moment she was also making her next decision, and tell him to leave my mansion. Surveying Norixel had just stepped out when Mel's voice came from nearby, excitedly greeting her good morning. Hello, Severin. As soon as she heard his voice, she turned to look. Surveying Norixel's eyes widened in surprise, her heart skipped a beat, and she thought with a flutter, someone once said that life and this heart never follow the plans we draw. After that day, Mel stood by the window, the gentle sunlight shining on his handsome face, making his radiance even more prominent. Mel turned a bright, joyful smile as he asked, the sunshine is beautiful, is not it? A gentle breeze blew through the window, making the curtains flutter as if breathing new life into Surveying Norixel's heart. Seeing this scene made her exclaim, only when I came to this mansion did I truly understand that saying. Outside the mansion, the sun was also gentle, the air fresh, and white clouds floated gracefully in the blue sky. Mel had already prepared breakfast and sat waiting for Surveying Norixel at the dining table. he excitedly called, "Severin, your dish is here. Come here." She was a little shy, hesitating to reply, all right. Surveying Norixel slowly walked to the chair near Mel, silently resolving to herself, "Today, I must tell him I am not that Surveying." Looking at his face, all my words fly away. I am speechless, really. But even if I go back, there is no way. The image of him from earlier reappeared in her mind, making Servant Norixel sigh in admiration, his beautiful curly hair shining in the sunlight, his fair skin, noble like white coral, and those clear aqua eyes. "Good morning, Servain." At that moment she was stunned by Mel's captivating beauty, her eyes wide with surprise. Even now, she remembered it clearly. That beautiful voice calling my name. I do not know why, but I thought this person had the ability to enchant people. Servain Norixel subtly glanced at him sitting opposite, her face expressionless, a slight discomfort mixed with envy in her heart as she thought. Making people's hearts flutter like that, yet acting so calm, is that a privilege of handsome men? Immediately after, she picked up her knife and fork to cut her food, silently determined. No matter what, after eating, I definitely have to tell him today that I am not that Servain. Thinking this, for some reason, Servain Norixel suddenly froze. A scent assailed her nostrils. Servain Norixel recognized the familiar smell, and a worried thought crossed her mind. Wait, this smell. The scent made her head reel, her vision blurred, to the point that Servain Norixel lost all strength and dropped the knife and fork in her hand. She frantically covered her nose and mouth with her hand, her face paling with fear, and a surge of dread filled her heart. It is the smell I smelled when the rebels were burned alive. Servain Norixel's eyes were frantic. Cold sweat broke out on her face, and her heart was filled with horror. That is right. This deduction is very logical. She recalled everyone's rumors. The murderer lives in the mansion. Anyone who enters cannot leave, except Proscien's group. Some also said their bodies could not be found. Thinking of this, Servain Norixel shivered intensely. She stood up abruptly and loudly stopped Mel. "Don't eat that." Servain Norixel walked over to him, not telling Mel the reason, but seriously stating, "Let us go outside. We do not need to eat this." He appeared innocent and calmly asked, "What is this?" She replied straightforwardly, "Are you asking because you do not know?" Servo Norixel decisively suggested, "Let us go outside. We will go to a restaurant." She grabbed Mel's hand and pulled him along, not caring if he agreed, resolutely stating, "If we go a little further from here, we will reach where people live." Mel disagreed, whispering his refusal. "Let go of my hand." Perhaps he spoke too softly, or Servain Norixel was too engrossed in her own thoughts to hear him. She stubbornly pulled Mel along, trying to offer persuasive arguments. "Besides this, there are many other things we can eat. I will buy them for you." The next second, his anger flared. Mel loudly demanded, "I told you to let go of my hand." Servain Norixel was startled by his harsh attitude and looked back in alarm. Mel asked in a low voice, "Why are you disappointed in me?" Her recent action made him jump to conclusions, and he asked bitterly, "Is it because I am no longer the person you liked before, so you find me repulsive?" Mel's heart was so hurt that he coldly uttered cruel words. "You try being confined here and feel it. That is what I have been through until now." Mel's face was filled with sorrow, his eyes welling up with tears. He bit his lips, suppressing his emotions, his voice full of reproach and resentment. "How much my heart has suffered." Servain Norixel calmly replied, "I am sorry, but my empathy is not very good." Her voice was warm and gentle, soothing the surging resentment in Mel's heart. "To be honest, I probably can't measure your emotions, but I understand your choice." Servain Norixel showed empathy, her voice gentle, each word subtly piercing his wounded heart, making Mel's eyes widen in shock. "You became like this to survive, did not you?" She slowly took his wrist, her voice soft and coaxing, gently manipulating him. "If you want to live, how can you live in a place with nothing? Am I wrong? So let us go out now." Servain Norixel looked at Mel with determined eyes, her voice firm as she advised, "You do not need to stay here anymore. You do not need to stay here anymore." He was afraid, his voice faltering as he refused. "No, I can't. I can't go outside." Mel lowered his head, his voice pained and pleading, trying to hold her back. "Don't go, Servain. Stay here." His voice trembled, anxiously explaining, "I can't leave the mansion. It will hurt outside." I can't go out. Hearing this, Survein Norixel looked completely bewildered, filled with doubt, as she asked, What? What did you say? Mel seemed to ignore her words, immersed in his insecurity, continuously pleading with Survein Norixel. Survein, please. That feeling completely consumed Mel's mind, making him kneel before her, his voice trembling and faltering as he earnestly begged, I beg you, please. Mel's pitiful actions and sorrowful words made Survein Norixel feel shocked and awkward. You said you understand my choice. Please do not lie anymore. You said you understand, but you are abandoning me and leaving. He clutched her small hands like a lifeline, his voice choked with heartbreaking emotion. Are you going to push me into the abyss again? Survein Norixel looked at Mel with pity, telling herself, No. If I weaken again, things will never end. Her voice was faint, hesitant, and soft, as she reassured him. It will hurt outside. What are you saying? You are not going alone. I am saying we are going together. Mel adamantly refused, stubbornly stating, No, I do not believe it, because you always betray my trust. He gently moved his hand, which was holding Survein Norixel's wrist, downwards, and slowly confessed, But, Survein, do you know something? Mel continued in a low voice, I want to say. His voice was full of resentment and reproach. You imprisoned me in the lake. You stole the ocean, which was my family. You promised to stay with me for a month, but you could not even do that. The inner Mel was cold, his voice full of bitterness. You threw me away like a dog. But on the outside, he smiled, trying to win Survein Norixel over, gently taking her hands and softly confessing, Even so, I still love you. Mel bent down to caress Survein Norixel's small hands. The ticklish, uncomfortable sensation made her tremble as she blurted out the truth. I am not the Survein you know. He ignored Survein Norixel's words, continuing to play with her fingers, making Survein Norixel shiver as she advised, So let go of my hand, Her whole body trembled from Mel's ambiguous actions, her face flushing with embarrassment. His deep voice called, Survein, my love. Mel slowly licked each of Survein Norixel's fingers tenderly, while uttering somewhat chilling words with an expressionless face. Let us die here together, shall we? Suddenly, Survein Norixel lunged forward, a worried thought in her heart. Danger. This creature is too dangerous. If this continues, nothing can be salvaged. She pinned Mel to the ground. His face calmly stared at Survein Norixel, and her voice was serious as she stated, You need to sober up and listen carefully. About that, I have something to say. Survein Norixel's hair fell, obscuring her expression. Survein Norixel's voice was firm and emphasized, Because you are not sober, it seems I missed my chance. I am not the person you are referring to. She honestly confessed, That person was my great-grandfather's granddaughter. Survein Norixel decisively stated the truth. She passed away long ago. Her face was serious, her eyes looking straight at Mel, trying to make him understand. After living for about 100 years, humans die or grow old due to aging. I just happen to resemble that person. We are not the same person. Mel's eyes became hollow upon hearing these affirmations directly from Survein Norixel. Look at my face. See if I am the person you are talking about. Do you understand now? So please, even if it is for your own sake. She screamed in vain, trying to awaken Mel. Please, wake up. As Survein Norixel panted, he hesitantly replied, Actually, I do not remember. Mel buried his face and sobbed, trying to hide his anguished expression. His voice trembled, desperately confessing, Survein, I no longer remember your face. A sense of helplessness completely consumed his mind, and his voice was full of sorrow as he begged for forgiveness. I am sorry. I am sorry for being stupid. Survein Norixel did not react at all. Time seemed to stop then. She just remembered that her thoughts at that moment, perhaps not just her own. Survein Norixel stared at Mel with vague eyes, filled with unspoken thoughts, thinking to herself, anyone would have such a thought. His face was covered in despair, his eyes red from crying, and bitter tears streamed down his cheeks. Mel gently called her name, Survein. Looking into his beautiful, watery blue eyes, so breathtaking and heartbreakingly sad, Survein Norixel thought, have I ever looked into someone's eyes this closely in my life? Those eyes captivated her entire mind, making Survein Norixel exclaim, Those pupils possess a strange charm. sorrowful, despairing. Her gaze lowered, her lips slightly parted. An emotion surged within Sylvain Norixel, making her think, but also very lovely. Sylvain Norixel slowly leaned down closer to the tear-stained handsome face lying beneath her. In the ambiguous atmosphere, a thought consumed her mind. It is as if a lover is waiting for a kiss. Sylvain Norixel could not control her emotions, and slowly prepared to kiss Mel. Her lips slightly parted, warm, humid breaths mingling in the delicate space, making time seem to pause for a beat. But her rationality stopped her. Sylvain Norixel did not kiss him, only hesitantly expressed, "I." A second later, she slowly lifted her head, her hair brushing against Mel's skin. Sylvain Norixel's expression was serious, her gaze unwavering as she looked at him without blinking, frankly stating, "I am not the Sylvain you are talking about." She straightened her back, without any concealment, truthfully telling Mel, "The reason I know about you is because my great-grandfather told me her story." Sylvain Norixel's voice was even, explaining the entire story in detail. "My name is Sylvain Noxerel. I was given the same name as the person you know." She uttered her final words, requesting Mel, "Therefore, from now on, please call me Noxerel." Her cold words completely disheartened him. His face was filled with sorrow, but there was nothing more he could do. After their emotions stabilized, the two calmly sat down to drink water and talk. As she poured water into her glass, Sylvain Norixel gently asked, "Would you like some?" She raised the water pitcher, her face unusually calm, and casually explained, "I do not have special tea leaves, so I just brought some boiled water." Mel just stared at Sylvain Norixel without replying, his face thoughtful, deep in thought about something. A few minutes later, he picked up the glass of water and admitted in a low voice, "I know you are not Sylvain." Sylvain Norixel's expression was like, "Are you serious, dude?" She took a sip of water, feeling speechless. "No, I think you absolutely did not know, and I almost kissed you for real." At this moment, Mel suddenly hesitated and continued to ask, "You are?" "What does Sylvain?" Sylvain Norixel spoke fluently, explaining the family lineage in detail, her paternal grandmother's generation. "I am the great-grandchild of her father's younger brother. Just consider me her granddaughter." Mel looked at her with suspicious eyes, deliberately probing. "The first time I came to this mansion, I did not see anyone." "You left this place freely, then suddenly returned. What is the reason?" Hearing this, Sylvain Norixel placed her glass of water on the saucer, her voice serious as she asserted, "My family has never willingly left this place." Sylvain Noxerel silently looked at her reflection in the teacup. She confessed, "The story might be a bit long. About 100 years ago, a rebellion broke out. The Duke Noxerel family, once loyal to the royal family, also fell on the day the throne changed hands. The person behind the rebellion was none other than the Pope, a rather obscure figure, who declared the kingdom of Zreka a holy nation and crowned himself king." Sylvain Noxerel's eyebrows furrowed as she continued the story. Before the event, the Duke Noxerel family, who sided with the prince, was completely eliminated. A moment later, Sylvain Noxerel suddenly softened. She asked, "Would you like to hear how that person died?" Her hand still held the teacup, her voice gentle and slow. "Most people thought that person gave up on a hopeless life due to their illness, but no one witnessed their final moments. That is the answer I got from those involved, but we will never know. Currently, that person, Sylvain Noxerel, hesitated." She continued, "Cannot be seen, cannot be touched, and cannot be met again." In her heart, countless words appeared, addressed to that person. "Are you living well? Mel, I worry if you are alone there, feeling lonely and cold. If you need anything, tell me anytime. That way I will come to see you." Hearing this, Mel began to tremble all over. He buried his face in his hands after hearing Sylvain Noxerel speak, because that person no longer exists in this world. At the Duke Noxerel family's mansion, Sylvain Noxerel spoke, "I apologize for constantly talking about this." Her voice was slow yet clear. "Although things have improved compared to before, the average human lifespan still has not reached 100 years, and when people die, they disappear, leaving behind a cold corpse. Even if some miracle happened and they lived to 100, the outcome would not change, because that person would not stay young forever like I am now," she stated frankly. Sylvain Noxerel picked up her teacup and said to Mel, "I do not know if these words comfort you, but I think that person never wanted to keep you captive for so long." Suddenly, Mel interrupted her. among the people I have met. He looked up, saying seriously, she was the strongest person, the one who once stopped those who wanted to kill me. Mel trembled all over, saying with an incredulous expression, so she is still alive, Servine is still alive. She promised to be with me for a month, and even if she died, she would return to this mansion. His eyes were full of stubbornness. Servine Noxerel quietly looked at him, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. But then she closed her eyes, sighed, and thought to herself, here I am again telling myself I must do something decisively. If I remain silent, the merman will forever cling to false hope, and repeat thoughts like, Servine is still alive, humans can live to 100, even if they die. I can meet them again at the mansion, so someone has to take on this role, even if it has to be me. Servine Noxerel spoke, I also experienced separation from my family, so I understand. At first it will be very difficult, but as time goes on, Mel interrupted, all right. He leaned his hands on the table, stood up abruptly, and said clearly, stay here or leave. It is up to you. This surprised Servine Noxerel somewhat. Yes. She also stood up, awkwardly saying, ah, then shall we go out together? I can introduce you to the village. Mel flatly refused, no need. I can't go out anyway. He turned his back to her. Servine Noxerel spoke, I will be back soon. The room door slowly closed. Servine Noxerel watched, frowning unconsciously. She thought to herself, this conversation must have been successful, but why do I feel so uneasy? In the bustling town, someone's voice rang out, the mansion in the forest. Of course, everyone in this area knows it. Servant Noxerel said to the vendor, then please deliver these items there regularly for me, and then she strode away. The fruit stall owner looked tense and asked hesitantly, Mistress, are you living in that rumored mansion? Servine Noxerel seemed unfazed, still focused on choosing fruit. Nevertheless, she calmly replied, it has always been our family's mansion. It is fine now, do not worry. Can I try this apple? Just as Servine Noxerel took a bite of the apple to taste it, the fruit stall owner tensed up and shouted, it is not just a rumor. Someone really died there. It happened 30 years ago. Someone went there and never returned. Because this territory has no ruling noble, we could not request a search, but everyone knows that child reportedly died in that mansion. Servine Noxerel quickly thought, the reports about the mansion have never mentioned commoners approaching it. Her shadow, cast by the sun, stretched across the town street. Servine Noxerel worriedly thought, I heard that those who disappeared at the mansion were enemies of the Noxerel family, and those who lived by shedding blood. Were there also ordinary victims? She firmly believed in her heart, the merman, to everyone in this world, is probably more cruel than imagined. Thinking this, she reassured the fruit stall owner. Shop owner, it is fine now. A few days ago, the knights dispatched there completed their investigation. Then she turned and left, saying, the transaction is done. I will be going now. At this moment, a thought came to her mind. To me, the merman. A voice, as if from the depths of Servine Noxerel's heart, echoed, Servine, I can no longer remember your face. I am sorry. I am sorry for being so foolish. She thought to herself, just 10 years of not meeting, and a person's face gradually fades. At that time, there must have been no photos or paintings. He must have thought about someone's face countless times during that endless period. Like a pitiful beast, the young man appeared in her heart with an image full of tears and endless helplessness. Servine Noxerel walked faster, silently blaming herself. Thinking about the merman makes me vague and disoriented. Her footsteps echoed on the ground. She was slightly annoyed. How could I? Servine Noxerel stifled the urge to cry from annoyance, pondering, should I even sell myself to come here to save the merman held captive alone? She looked around the town, her heart sinking. Grandpa, I am starting not to understand myself anymore. Back at the mansion, Servine Noxerel said, I am back. She gently opened the gate and called out, Mel. Seeing the mansion empty, not a soul in sight, Servine Noxerel wondered, where did he go? She walked up the stairs, telling herself, I think I know where he is. Servine Noxerel approached the door to Mel's room, guessing, is he taking a nap? Thinking this, she reached out and knocked on his door, calling out, Mel, are you in there? As she pushed the door slightly ajar, Servine Noxerel asked, are you sleeping? The moment she stepped into the room, her shoes seemed to land in a pool of dark red liquid. Sylvain Noxerel momentarily lost her composure, and suddenly a voice echoed in her mind. Sylvain. The image of the young man's lips moving, surrounded by water, accompanied by a faint voice. If you die, where can I meet you again? When a merman dies, you can meet him in the sea. Because mermaids, the voice faltered. Sylvain Noxerel now noticed the spreading red liquid that seemed to flood the room. Her mind was filled with panic. When they die, they turn into seawater. Sylvain Noxerel's face now expressed incredulous horror at what was happening before her eyes. At the Duke Noxerel mansion, the mansion windows remained closed. Everything was silent, not a soul in sight. The room was empty, only the ticking of a clock could be heard. Sylvain Noxerel stood in Mel's room, still pondering. If mermen die, they become seawater. As she pondered, she stood motionless. A beautiful sound from a mystical land. If you die, where can I meet you? If a merman dies, you can meet them at sea. Who said it, or where those words were heard, no longer mattered, as the words suddenly flooded her mind, and took control of my entire mind. Sylvain Noxerel froze, her eyes wide. She looked at the man sitting in the corner of the room, suddenly understanding how many people he killed, what he ate, what does it matter? Mel's body was soaked, his clothes wrinkled. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by water. Sylvain Noxerel approached him, gently wrapped her arms around him, and thought to herself, I wish you would just resent me, kill me. I wish you would live while harboring hatred for me. Her lips were dry, her mind filled with the thought, only when I witnessed a scene I never imagined did I truly understand. That for him all moral standards were meaningless. The only thing that could truly change him was this. As she thought this, Sylvain Noxerel gently stroked Mel's soaked hair. Then she called out, Mel, open your eyes. Her fingers gently traced his face. She softly said, I am Sylvain. It is Sylvain here, so please, open your eyes, Mel. Her voice faltered, her face showing clear sadness, regret, and a touch of sorrow. Mel's beautiful face was now drenched, drops of water dripping from his hair. Suddenly, Mel slowly opened his eyes. He raised his hand towards her, as if vaguely disbelieving. Sylvain. Mel gently pulled her towards him. Sylvain, it is really you. That is great, he finished, then tightly hugged Sylvain Noxerel, enveloping her in his trembling body. After a while, Mel spoke. Sylvain, I have always waited for you. Only you. For a very long time, Mel finished, and suddenly, his eyes gleamed with a strange light. Sylvain Noxerel woke up with a start. A voice rang out right beside her. How are you feeling? She looked over. It was Mel. He sat down beside her bed. Sylvain Noxerel screamed in alarm. How? Mel said casually. What are you talking about? Are you mocking me for still being alive? She awkwardly denied it. No, it is not like that. Sylvain Noxerel recalled the scene she had just witnessed and said to him, No, you fainted here, and then the floor was flooded with water. Mel looked confused. What are you saying? Sylvain Noxerel was also flustered. Huh, she thought to herself. What was that? Was I dreaming? The floor was clearly full of water, and I smelled the sea mixed with blood. He bent his leg and gradually moved onto the bed, questioning her. Now that I have legs, you do not like me anymore. Sylvain Noxerel did not understand the meaning of his words. Yes, what are you saying? Mel had now fully climbed onto the bed, moving close to her, repeating, Now that I have legs, you do not find me rare anymore, so you are pretending not to recognize me, right? Seeing Mel close in, wrapping his arms around her as if to imprison her, Sylvain stammered, About yesterday, my explanation was incomplete. If I had not pretended to be that person, Mel would have died, so... His face drew close to hers, eye to eye. Mel spoke. Finally, you remember. Sylvain Noxerel was slightly confused. What? He reached out and took a lock of her hair, gently stroking it. His voice was calm. Every day I prayed here that if you came and met me, you would remember your memory of discarding me like a dog. Mel brought the lock of her hair to his nose and continued. Finally, my prayers have been answered. The pain you caused me, I will return it to you from now on. Seeing Sylvain Noxerel stare, Mel spoke again. Sylvain, tell me. He reached out to tear open her shirt, which caught Sylvain off guard. She screamed in surprise. Ah! Mel's fingers touched the soft skin on her hip. Sylvain Noxerel panicked. Wait. Despite this, he did not stop. He pulled her closer to him, his large hands slowly moving upwards. Sylvain could only tremble, letting out a soft sound. Hic. She clutched his shirt, pushing him with force. Wait, Mel, this is... Mel pulled her shirt down, whispering in her ear, How do you feel now? At this moment, Sylvain's mind was filled with thoughts. How could I make such a mistake? Being imprisoned for so long, it is normal, I suppose. If taught correctly, he will improve. Mel kissed her gently, moving downwards. When he reached her chest, he paused. She seemed to realize, pondering. But that is not it. He is completely broken, to the point where I can no longer reach him. Mel buried his face in her chest, his voice mesmerizing and hoarse. You. From now on you cannot leave this room, he said, then looked up, smiling contentedly. Mel's voice was soft and coaxing. I am sorry, was I too harsh on you? You must be tired, Sylvain. Rest today. Sylvain blushed, silently blaming him. He does what he wants, and then talks about it. Mel kissed her hair. If you need anything, tell me any time. Her heart was helpless. No matter how much I explain, his conclusion is still, you are Sylvain. Sylvain stammered, I have said it many times, but Mel did not want to hear her say more. That is enough talk. From now on, you are not to leave this room. Then he turned and walked away. Sylvain called out in surprise, What are you saying? Are you going to imprison me here? Mel calmly replied. This much is fine. You have watched me for 24 hours, imprisoned me in a cramped space, then abandoned me. Sylvain quickly denied, it was not me, but he interrupted her. Sylvain. Mel's voice deepened. In this house, no one will hurt you. Only I will look at you. I won't let anyone have you. I hope you understand that I am being very patient right now. Her eyes widened slightly in astonishment. He added, Otherwise, I would have already tied you tightly to the bed. She could not believe it. Ancestors, oh ancestors, what have you done to make your descendants suffer like this? It was another fresh morning. Sunlight streamed through the glass windows, creating a warm, beautiful scene. Mel spoke with concern. Sylvain, you are hungry, are not you? Sylvain understood. Living in captivity, I guessed his nature would not be normal. She replied, I suppose so. Her thoughts continued, and that instinct first revealed itself at mealtime. Her hand holding the bowl paused. This is not salad, it is grass. Where did the balsamic vinegar and dressing I bought go? Looking at the bowl of grass soup, Sylvain told herself, he still made the effort, I should at least eat half. She painstakingly brought a spoonful to her lips to taste. After a moment of resolve, Sylvain finally put it down. Then she turned to Mel and forced a smile. Mel, I am done eating, it was delicious. He asked worriedly, why did not you finish it? His eyes sparkled like water, his voice soft as a plea. Don't you like pureed food, Sylvain? Mel hung his head, looking wronged. So I made soup for you. She was too familiar with his tricks. It is that look. A cold face, but his eyes were so gentle. Those eyes looked at me with anticipation and nervousness. She looked back at the soup bowl on the table. A self-deprecating smile? Sylvain Noxerel? To still be able to smile in this situation, living with a crazy merman in this gloomy mansion, I must truly be insane. Sylvain soothed him. That is right, Mel. I do like pureed food, do not I? Make soup for me again next time, okay? Then she silently looked at him, and a crazy theory formed in my mind. Even if he did not keep me, I would not be able to leave him. All right. Seeing his beautiful face blossom under the sunlight, I could understand. The taste was like it wanted to block all taste buds. Mel looked at her, his eyes innocent and expectant. I tried cooking it the way you said. The next day, Mel brought pureed eggplant. Sylvain's voice softened. All right, Mel. Today was delicious too. She had accepted this life. This level of captivity is fine. His actions are quite cute, I thought. Until that day, her voice suddenly rang out. That, Mel. Sylvain covered her body, hidden by the bathrobe. I am going to take a bath? Mel innocently stepped forward and placed his hand on her shoulder. I know. Shall I help you bathe? Sylvain immediately refused. What nonsense are you saying? Don't follow me. He asked lightly, why is it nonsense? Well, of course, she immediately retorted, you are a man and I am a woman. We have not reached the point of seeing each other's naked bodies, Mel said sadly. Why not, Servain? You have always seen my body. Servain had many things on her mind, but did not know how to say them. I am not that Servain. I have never seen your naked body. Saying these words was useless. Since that is the case, how about we try this today? I will suggest we both gradually build a normal relationship. I think it would be better if we started over. Hearing this, Mel gradually became annoyed. He repeated each word in a deep voice. Start over. His hand clenched as he questioned, Servain, I have been here, constantly waiting for you. Now you tell me to start over. Mel recalled the painful past and choked up. That hellish period, why? Why can you ask me to... Before he could finish, he collapsed to the ground, hands clutching his head, his nerves frayed. Servain, frightened, tried to rouse him. Mel, ugh. She lifted his face, worried. Why suddenly? Are you all right? Mel mumbled, his voice trembling. No, I am wrong. I should not resent you. I have no reason to resent you. Servain suddenly froze as if she could not believe it. His way of thinking is completely warped now. This time, he is not blaming my ancestor, but himself. Is there something I do not know, or is it because the merman is crazy? Servain gently bit her lip, questioning herself, but what is wrong with me? She looked at Mel, his eyes tear-filled, weak in her arms. I am softening again at this look of his. Servain gently wiped away the tears from his eyelashes. Tears from those blue eyes gathered on his lashes, flowing down in drops, like dewdrops on leaves cascading down. Perhaps not just me, but anyone who looked could be made of flesh and blood. Mel's bare back flickered in and out of view behind the mist, and the robe falling to his pale feet. How is he any different from a human? So bathing together is no big deal. Then he reached out to help Servain undress, making her face flush red as she stammered. Then Servain shrieked, "Wait!" The scream echoed through the room. Realizing her action, she quickly explained, I am sorry, I accidentally... Suddenly, Mel chuckled, "Ha, that is more like you. Servain, I told you we would bathe together and you are still teasing me. You are too much." His flawless white skin glistened under the water, each abdominal muscle subtly defined with every movement. He wore a smirk, gently tilting his head and smoothing his flowing hair. Mel's voice was inviting, yet also like a command. Come here to me. Servain remained still. She hesitantly reminded him, I think I joked a bit too much, Mel. About bathing together, I did not mean getting into the tub this way. Nevertheless, her eyes could not leave that body, and her cheeks had already flushed without her realizing. So a merman's body is truly that beautiful? Flawless white skin, with every movement, each muscle contour clearly defined. Servain subtly glanced down at his lower body. He does not just grow a tailback when he falls into water. Suddenly, he called out to her, Servain, which snapped her back to reality. She stammered shyly, sorry. Servain continued to stand still. I did not think bathing together was a big deal, but who knew I would be put in a situation to get into the tub like this? Looking from behind is tolerable, but from the front, I really can't, and that is right, because I have never dated anyone. Mel saw her hesitation. He proactively spoke, It truly is Servain. She flinched slightly. She asked again, You just said... Before Servain could finish, Mel reached out and pulled her wrist. Servain lost her balance and fell forward. She landed directly into his arms. With Servain in his embrace, he wasted no time reaching out to undo her belt. Servain quickly stopped him. Wait, Mel? She struggled, refusing. No, how far are you going to go this time? Mel paused upon hearing this. He slowly slid down. Servain continued to resist. Again, why do you like this position so much? Mel pressed close to her shoulder and whispered, Servain, I just feel like I am dreaming. I feel so happy. He playfully rubbed against her neck, his voice pleading, So can I just look at you for a bit? But if you say no, I will stop. Servain let out a soft sigh, asking herself, Now, I do not even know. Who would have thought I would end up in a bathtub with a handsome man? Then she gathered all her courage and turned around. Honestly, when else would I get an opportunity to be this close to a handsome man? As their eyes met, Servine reassured herself. Yes, I am just showing a little affection, so he can stabilize emotionally. I am fine with this, and he likes it too. Is not that enough? Mel seized the opportunity, burying his head in Servine's soft bosom, docile as a baby. She focused on him, then I can try to harmonize with him. But then she quickly regained her senses, immediately pushing him away. Wait a minute, but if I do not really stop him, how far will he go? But she could not fully escape Mel's embrace. She tried to push him away, but failed. Luckily, he lacks knowledge. It is clear he only knows how to hug, hold hands, and at most, kiss. I can't completely relax. Servine, hug me. Perhaps among mermaids, this kind of action is no big deal. Maybe it is just a playful gesture between peers. Like shaking hands? Yes, if I think of it that way, there is nothing to be tense about. And finally, Servine resigned herself. All right, you can hug me for as long as you want. Mel held her tightly in his arms and softly said, Servine, look at me. Servine looked directly into his eyes and asked, why? Suddenly, Mel looked up and pressed his lips against hers with a sweet kiss. It was a long moment before their lips parted. Servine realized with a start that she had fallen into a trap. She awkwardly scolded him. What? What are you doing? Here, Servine's mind was reeling, unable to utter a word. Her cheeks had not yet cooled down after the previous situation. She looked down at his exquisitely sculpted face and could not scold him further. The smug expression was still there, but the innocence was gone. This sly fox. In the steamy bathroom, the scent of skin intertwined, creating a sensual atmosphere. Servine was helpless. Mentally, I feel incredibly exhausted. She sighed with regret. Taking a bath should feel refreshing, but for some reason, my mind feels so light, as if I am drifting somewhere. Mel buried his head in her neck. His breath was hot, lingering at her sensitive spot. She shivered slightly, and his voice spoke again as if teasing. Servine, are not you going to look at me? She coldly continued. Looking at you, you seem very happy, unlike my state. Mel innocently confirmed, yes, I am very happy. So, I want to go further. Servine was taken aback. What? Then, almost immediately, water gushed out of the tub like Mel's endurance, mirroring Servine's own quickened breathing. He pressed her against the edge of the tub. Servine was pinned beneath Mel, panicking as she called his name, Mel. Their fingers intertwined, and he asked softly, laced with concern, Servine, your hands and body are so firm. You are getting stronger, are not you? Servine looked up at him, her eyes unfocused. I am so tired, I do not even want to answer, she said simply, because I have been exercising. Then she closed her eyes, lost in thought. When my father was alive, I was cared for like a plant in a greenhouse, growing up gracefully. After he passed away, I blindly ran away from home, trying to find my family. To find the royal bloodline, I met Proshin Minayo. Ever since I had to face those from the aristocratic faction, those who challenged the throne, there was not a day this body was not injured. That is the story of 10 years ago. Suddenly, Mel's voice broke her train of thought. Servine, I have been wanting to ask you this. Why does Servine have scars? Your back and stomach are covered in them. Servine did not rush to answer. They are scars from killing those who tried to kill me. I probably do not need to spell it out, right? Then she told him, just scrapes from bumping into trees. Mel believed her completely, his voice softening in comfort. Oh, I bet that hurt. I hope you will be comfortable living in a safe place. Servine silently looked at his innocent face, like a child. Suddenly, I had that thought again. Mel is so much taller than me, and he has lived longer, but in my eyes, he is no different than a child. In a child's life, it is inevitable that they will face pain. Those ritualistic events will always be scars in a child's soul. However, scars are just marks that can be seen, they do not hurt anymore. Mel, are you doing this to me because that person hurt you? Like my life before, could that person's existence leave scars on your mind? So just stop and accept it. The Servine you have been waiting for is gone. But that fragile back with so many painful reminders on it will always be there. Growth always comes with pain. I have been thinking about this, but I could not find the right time to say it. Her eyes, full of pity for those deserving of it, landed on Mel. That exquisite face now revealed no emotion. This is difficult for Mel, but it is also an opportunity for him to realize reality. 115. Ever since coming here, Darkness has been constantly wavering. He said he would take revenge, but when I saw that foolish, open, clingy, and adorable smiling face, I could not bring myself to say it. Even so, I will still tell him, even if I have to repeat it many times. If it can save someone, it is completely worth it. Suddenly, his voice pulled her back to reality as Mel sat up, getting off of her. Sylvain, do you think I am crazy? Sylvain avoided his gaze. It is not that. I am just a little uneasy. Mel asked curiously. Oh, why? He ran a hand through his slightly damp hair, confirming, I am very clear-headed right now. Mel looked down at her, his eyes like daggers, his tone strangely sharp. I remember very clearly. You are the one who can't remember. Not me, Sylvain. Sylvain was caught off guard. What? Am I thinking too much about this existence, so that is why? Compared to his earlier needy, doubtful, and resentful actions driven by a craving for affection, his attitude was completely different. But then, Mel reverted to his pitiable self, begging her, But I hope you do not remember. I really do not want you to remember. This time, it was Mel's turn. His evasive gaze did not escape Sylvain's notice. Guilt. She wondered, does he feel guilty towards that person? What happened? Then Mel stood up and dropped a casual, I will head out first, Sylvain. Her head was spinning with questions. What did he do wrong to that person to feel guilty? What was it? Mel's sweet voice echoed. Sleep well and sweet dreams. She watched his back as he left the room, a sense of doubt arising within her. Something happened between the two of them in the past that I should not know about. The next morning, Sylvain spoke first. Mel. He replied. What is it? Sylvain stopped him. You do not need to go that far. As usual, she crossed her arms in helplessness. The strange role-playing game starts again today. Mel lowered his head, asking with a naive and wronged expression, Is it because I am clumsy? Sylvain sighed, denying it. That is not what I mean. I do not need to live that way yet, because I am not that Sylvain. He remained silent. She continued, From today on, I am going to keep telling you that I am not that person. Mel replied, Oh, I see. He asked her curiously. Now that I think about it, how did you live, Sylvain? Sylvain washed her face, answering casually, I am not that person, so I do not know. Mel emphasized again, I am talking about you. His words stunned her for a moment. Sylvain could not hide her fear. Dazed, she turned to him, asking, What did you just say? He repeated with anticipation. How did you live? I am curious. Tell me. Sylvain said coldly. Why are you curious about me? Mel answered calmly, as if it were obvious. Because you are Sylvain. But this answer made her angry. Sylvain enunciated each word. I have said it many times. I am not that person. He replied very casually. Yeah, that is why I am asking. She suddenly stopped, unable to speak. Mel continued. Because that child is already dead. Sylvain was dumbfounded, confused. What is going on? Why is he suddenly like this? His attitude is completely different than before. I thought that if I just proved I was not that person, everything would be resolved. But the situation has changed. Anyway, the most important thing is this. He knows I am not that person. Why does he feel guilty? Then he reached out and stroked her hair, saying sweetly, But you have come back again. I am so happy. Sylvain asked Mel what he meant. Are you trying to say I am that person's reincarnation? He replied, Yeah, I believe in that. Mel gave a brief, satisfied smile. Sylvain, at first I did not believe in it at all, but right now, are not you here? Right in front of me. Sylvain closed her eyes in frustration, thinking, in the end, this merman really is crazy. And I am ridiculous, actually taking responsibility for someone who is not mentally stable. It feels like my life is a tangled mess, even in real time. But what can I do? Because if I look into those eyes, I lose my ability to judge. Lose my ability to judge. She looked directly at Mel. This merman really does have the power to bewitch people. That is right. All of the merman's actions are similar to those of the traders I have met countless times before. That is why I did not realize it. All along, I have been bound by him and unable to leave this mansion. Now I know this man's true goal. He wants to bind me in some way, just like that person. Now he is pretending not to mistake me for that person and seeing me completely. Mel continued, I am really happy that you have come back. Hearing this, Sylvain avoided his gaze again. Honestly, I am disappointed. A pang of sadness arose in her heart. I sincerely sympathize with him and think about giving up my own safety. His voice rang out. Sylvain, have I told you? She remained pensive. I can't heal him, and we do not have a special relationship. I can only exist as a facade, participating in a strange roleplay. There is no sincerity in his words or actions right now. Mel gently bowed his head, expressing his feelings for her. Sylvain, I love you. Sylvain stammered, thinking of a countermeasure. If that is the case, I just need to pretend, since that is my goal. Then she went along with it, returning Mel's sweet kiss. Yeah, I love you too, Mel. Sylvain had made a plan for herself. That night, I decided to leave the mansion. I did not try to escape after Mel announced he was going to keep me locked up. At that time, he said, from now on, you can't leave this room. Of course, if I really intended to run away, I would open the window and run. What is this feeling? In the end, I am just going with the flow. But now even that has become useless. Start observing the subject's movements first. I need to determine where Mel frequents in this mansion. She stood in front of the door to freedom, holding the handle but not resolutely opening it. Sylvain thought, I do not know if it is on purpose, but Mel does not make any noise, so I do not know when he will appear. She pressed her hand against the door, wanting to hear his movements. But there were no results. He really is not making any noise. But if he is really here, I can just make up an excuse. Even so, I should not let my guard down. Then she cautiously cracked the door open. Suddenly, a hand reached out, stopping the door from opening further. Sylvain. Mel stood in front of her, his voice questioning. Why are you opening the door? His sudden appearance startled Sylvain, and she stumbled backward in panic. His cold voice continued. Sylvain, I am asking you, where are you going? Her eyes, filled with doubt, were fixed on Mel in shock. Could it be? He is been guarding the door every night. First, I need to stay calm. If he finds out I am leaving the mansion, I do not know what he will do. Sylvain regained her composure and asked Mel, Mel, why are you there? He paused for a moment. She continued with a concerned tone, Have you been sleeping on the floor all this time? Mel hesitated to answer, It is okay, I am not tired. Then he returned to the main topic. But why are you opening the door? I told you not to go outside. Sylvain replied, I am thirsty. I want to drink water. Mel asked again. You are thirsty, she added. Yeah, my throat is so dry, it is hard to breathe, so I woke up. Suddenly, his expression turned serious as he repeated, Hard to breathe? Sylvain blankly called his name Mel. She looked up at him, questioning, What is wrong? Why did your face suddenly turn pale? Then he turned away, not forgetting to tell her, Wait a moment, I will get you some water. Sylvain, still confused, stammered, Okay. Sylvain stood silently, watching Mel's hurried departure. She was confused. That is a strange reaction. It is just thirst. Why is he so worried? Then Sylvain walked out of the door after him, pondering, I just said it randomly, but I accidentally bought myself some time. If I take this opportunity and run out through the window. But she dismissed that thought. No, that is too careless. Sylvain remembered what she had seen before. It was not the strength or speed of a normal person. Sneaking out is impossible even in my dreams, and I have no chance in a contest of strength. In short, physical methods are ineffective. If that is the case, I have to change my strategy. Recalling Mel's actions so far, he is very sensitive to pain or injury. Like just now, his face turned pale over something so trivial. Because of his weak body. That person was always in the mansion, right? Perhaps that image has been deeply etched in Mel's mind and left some kind of psychological trauma. She slowly walked down the stairs, looking towards the room with light. Servain approached the source of light, constantly coming up with answers in her head. Psychological trauma. It is Mel. Servain walked to the edge of the doorway, sweetly calling his name, Mel. She smiled gently, teasingly, still not getting the water. Then she approached him, but Mel quickly shouted, stopping her. Servain, it is dangerous. Don't come over here. There are shards of glass on the floor. She smiled inwardly. Ever since he imprisoned me in this mansion, he has been hiding my shoes, as if a pet does not want its owner to go out. Seeing the delicate bare feet he cherished about to step towards the shards of glass, Mel soothed, Servain, go back to your room. Okay. I will take care of everything. Servain acted as if she did not see, placing her bare foot on the sharp shards of glass. From the beginning, you probably thought you had an advantage in strength, but you are wrong. Why? Because I am the person you cherish the most. The pain quickly spread, causing Servain to cry out in pain. Mel hurried to support her in worry. The pitiful Servain said softly, Mel, I think my foot is bleeding. Those words were like a thunderclap to Mel, and his eyes immediately darkened. Mel quickly picked her up, not allowing her feet to suffer any further damage. Being suddenly lifted, Servain was startled. Mel said softly with concern, does it hurt? Wait for me, just a moment. Servain was indifferent. Okay. In her heart, a pang of ache rose. Destroying what the other person cherished most touched the psychological trauma within his heart. The strategy was successful, but somewhere inside she felt uncomfortable. Why? Servain wondered, is it because the other person's heart belongs to only one person? Or is that affection reserved solely for one person, unchanged even after centuries have passed? Looking at the face that was worried about her, Servain secretly declared, you can never have me. Then she decided to close her eyes and place a bet. She asked softly, Mel, can you take me to a hospital outside? That night, the moon shone brightly, as if trying to awaken the entire world from its dream. Moonlight filtered into the quiet room. It gently touched her skin, causing Servain to vaguely awaken. Looking at the familiar surroundings, she laughed self-deprecatingly. Ha, what hospital? Stepping down, Servain saw that Mel had left her a pair of shoes. She put them on, saying with a self-mocking laugh, should I consider myself lucky to have gotten my shoes back? The surrounding space was immersed in its usual stillness. The moonlight poured down, covering every corner of the room in silver. Servain quietly cracked open the door. She saw Mel curled up on the floor, surrounded by many books. Perhaps Mel was very worried about her. Servain softened, looking at him. If you keep begging me not to go like this, how can I leave? She sighed. Just saying one sentence. Ask him to be taken to a doctor outside, and he started crying and apologizing. Clearly he wants to play role-playing with me, because I resemble that person. Yet he acts as if I am the one doing something wrong. Now I see through all of your lies. Do you know how disappointed that makes me? Servain walked over and sat down, silently observing Mel, in a rare moment of peace. At least put something down on the floor. Or sleep in a comfortable position. In fact, the most blameworthy person right now is me. If I had acted more coldly then, perhaps Mel would have completely let go of me. She reached out and stroked his face with many indescribable emotions. When I see this tear-stained face in front of me, I can't do anything. How does a merman manage to sway a person so much? She gently reached out and dabbed a tear still lingering on his eyelashes. Servain put it on the tip of her tongue, tasting the merman's sadness. Then she said softly, Mel, do you know? If you love someone, they will love you back. Why do you have to regret someone who is already gone? And you are awake now, right? The moment I stepped out of the room, Mel did not bother pretending anymore. He opened his eyes, sitting up and calling her Servain. Although she was the one taking the initiative, Servain still had a slight tremor facing him. Mel asked her gently, you want to go outside? He carried sadness in his voice. Do you hate me that much? Servain knew the answer, but did not tell him. I have never hated you, because from the beginning I have never liked you. She looked closely at the silent Mel. Just that one sentence was enough to crush the merman. But with his current state of mind, it would not be strange if he vanished into the Dead Sea. My volatile temperament is no different from the existence in front of me. Anger, disappointment, pity, regret. and some kind of fascination. Suddenly she stood up, reaching out to him. Mel, let us go outside together. Servan knew that she would definitely regret her choice. Come with me, Mel. Let us leave this mansion together. Anywhere. Anywhere is fine, as long as we are together. She reached out and gently grabbed his wrist. I will do as you want, but before she could finish speaking, Mel abruptly pushed her hand away, causing the seashell bracelet on his wrist to snap open. The sound of falling, shattering faintly echoed as a string of seashells fell to the floor, scattered, replacing the sigh between the two. Servain quickly pulled her hand back. Ah, sorry, I just wanted to help you up. I did not expect to break the bracelet. Mel, are you okay? But he interrupted her, his voice cold. Was that true? Mel continued. Unbelievable. Because you are always like this. Servain avoided him. He said softly, It would have been better if you had not said it. Then Mel turned away, wanting to stop the tears that were about to flow. His voice choked. If you are lying this time too, I can't take it anymore. Servain silently pondered. No matter how rationally I try to think, I still find this existence too pitiful and pure to turn my back on. If I have already been charmed, so what? What is wrong? What is there to regret? Moreover, this is the sin of my ancestors. It is more than enough for me to take responsibility. She gently lifted Mel's chin, sweetly saying, I am not lying. When I give my affection, I do not wait for a response before I love or treat that person kindly. I also do not intend to impose things like contracts or the trivial obligations of humans on you. What I want is just this. Then Servain leaned down and moved closer to Mel. She lifted his beautiful face to face hers. I just want to look at your beautiful eyes. Servain gently whispered, I do not deny that I am drawn to your eyes, but not because of some emotion. What I really want is to help someone as flawed as you, so even if I am charmed by you, I still will. Suddenly the window behind them shattered, sharp shards of glass flying towards Servain. Mel, before he could understand what was happening, was stunned. A shard of glass grazed her face, leaving a long streak of blood. A mysterious figure appeared in front of the two. Servain stood up abruptly. Servain shouted loudly, calling him who was in a daze. Mel, get behind me quickly. Seeing Servain Noxerel quickly push him away, Mel could not help but widen his eyes and exclaimed, Servain! Her slender hand resolutely grabbed a shard of glass from the floor. Even though her hand was cruelly cut, Servant Noxerel was determined to rush up and deal with the assassin. She bit her lip tightly, quickly, like lightning throwing the shard of glass towards the assassin. The assassin agilely leaned to dodge, an imposing aura rushing quickly. Suddenly, the assassin's eyes widened, horror filling their eyes. The assassin could not say a word when before their eyes was Servain Noxerel with a blazing aura, quickly closing in. Dark red blood spurted out, splattering everywhere. The entire assassin fell to the ground with a thud. Even though their hand was still clutching a dagger, there was no longer a chance to retaliate. Servain Noxerel still did not let her guard down, holding the dagger tightly, regretting inwardly, I was careless. Silently looking at the assassin's corpse in front of her, she was lost in thought. Before coming to the mansion, she had to live in a state of constant vigilance against countless assassins. Because walking on the path to reclaim the throne made her the enemy of too many people. Servain Noxerel's eyes suddenly flashed with intense killing intent, leaning sideways, vigilantly looking to the side. Before the assassins who were rushing over in droves, she secretly assessed. It was obvious that the enemy families knew she was not in the capital and sent assassins here. Mel suddenly stepped forward and hugged her tightly, pulling her back. Servain Noxerel was stunned for a moment, muttering involuntarily, Mel. His hand grabbed the assassin's neck, causing the assassin to lose oxygen, gasping, Kark. The assassin's mouth was drooling, only able to utter a few words, Ku-uk. Mel's face hardened, focusing intently on looking straight ahead. He easily lifted the entire assassin and slammed them hard onto the ground, causing the floor to shatter and rocks to fly everywhere. The remaining assassin fearfully shrank back when witnessing that scene. Servain Noxerel stared blankly at the assassin on the ground, her heart filled with boundless shock and doubt. He suppressed him with his bare hands. Her eyes flicked around, only then making a judgment. He has probably been dealing with the intruders into the mansion this way. Mel gently hugged her in his arms, gently placing a kiss on Sylvain Noxerel's hair. Are you okay, Sylvain? The broken shards of glass reflected the sparkling lights. Just then, his voice slowly rang out. Sorry, I am sorry, Sylvain. I should have been more vigilant. Sylvain Noxerel asked him doubtfully, Why are you apologizing? Mel lowered his voice to reply, Because I could not protect you and let you get hurt. As he spoke, he placed a kiss on Sylvain Noxerel's hand filled with cuts. Does it hurt a lot, Sylvain? It is my fault for letting you hold the glass with your bare hand. So it turned out like this. The mirror reflected the figures of the two standing there in the room. His sad voice rang out. Perhaps being here will only hurt you more. Mel leaned into her arms, asking softly with anxiety, You do not hate me, do you? Sylvain Noxerel grabbed onto his trembling shoulders. I am afraid you will get tired of me and leave me again. She reached out and touched Mel's cheek, speaking with care to reassure him, I won't leave you. So come with me, Mel? Let us leave this mansion together. While Sylvain Noxerel was expressing herself, suddenly something flashed past her leg. A bloody dagger flew up and stuck hard into the wall. Mel exclaimed in horror. Sylvain. He was now extremely flustered, shaking Sylvain Noxerel's shoulders. Sylvain, what is wrong with you? She trembled according to instinct, grabbing onto Mel's hem. Am I injured somewhere, damn it? Sylvain Noxerel leaned her head on his chest, looking sideways, self-blaming. I just thought I needed to be vigilant, but I was careless again. She warned softly. Mel, be careful. The assassin still had not lost his life, holding the string controlling the dagger. Before collapsing, he managed to throw that dagger tied with a string. My body has no strength left. I must have been poisoned. Blood spread from the wound all over the area around Sylvain Noxerel's leg, my ankle, poisoned, and... The image of him worrying and caring for me. Sylvain Noxerel told herself, I have never hated you. I should have said these words, but I can't make a sound. That figure gradually blurred in her eyes. What is this feeling? Why is it so familiar? Her scarred hand struggled to reach forward, as if... Mel hurriedly caught her as she fainted and fell straight back. The one who has died more than once. Mel's face flushed, and he called her name Sylvain. He gently laid Sylvain Noxerel down on the floor, saying softly, Wait for me, Sylvain. His feet hurried across the ground, making a rapid and intense sound. Mel bit his lip tightly and hurriedly ran off. Wait for me, just a moment. I will. The door to the room not far away, but at this moment it suddenly felt unusually distant. It will be okay, it is not too late yet. Mel's arm reached out, getting closer and closer to the door. If I ran to the village now and called a doctor then. A blinding light from outside following the door illuminated all around. The space outside was bright, the sunlight shining brightly on everything in front of Mel. Before a row of wall lamps decorating the mansion, his rapid breathing echoed repeatedly. His voice echoed throughout the corners of the mansion walls. Mel struggled with all his might, losing all his strength and collapsing to the ground, coughing. His hand unconsciously clenched, unable to help but think, number. Mel's eyes unconsciously widened, sweat covering his cheeks. You have to get up? Even though he had lost all his strength, he still struggled to get up. I am suffocating so much that my legs can't move. Just as Mel's foot moved forward, it went on strike by trembling constantly. Before he collapsed and sprawled on the ground, Mel's head repeated her name endlessly. Sylvain. Sylvain. His eyes were dull, without any awareness. His instinct was to think, where should I go to get to the village? Where can I find a doctor? Tears streamed down Mel's cheeks as he realized, can I only stay in this mansion forever? He huddled up, hugging his head tightly to protect himself. Pull yourself together. You can't collapse here. I can't lose you like this. But I can't move my body. About 100 years ago, at a lakeside bordering the forest surrounding the mansion, bubbles suddenly appeared from the bottom of the lake, rising to the surface of the water. Bright green leaves floated gently, sunbathing at the bottom of the lake. Mel leisurely lay sunbathing, idly thinking, when I was living under the sea, I saw many beautiful corals. His eyes flicked to the side as he suddenly remembered Sylvain Noxerel, who allowed herself to float along the water current, Suddenly appeared in his mind, my coral, once blossomed in the dark sea with determination. Looking at the bubbles rising before his eyes, Mel pondered, I miss you. Why do not you come to see me? He slightly rose to the surface of the water on a starry night. Even though I am waiting, Sylvain still does not come to this lake. Mel rose up a little bit, enough to observe all the surrounding situations. It seems the mansion is on fire. Is she okay? I do not see the servants who used to come to deliver letters anymore. His eyes suddenly widened, terrified, when he suddenly heard a scream. Over there, is everything okay? A loud voice of blame echoed in Mel's ears. The evidence of the air. Clearly, he thought to himself, what are they looking for? While he was wondering in his heart, he was pulled back by the clownfish, nipping at his tail. Are you busy? Mel tilted his head and looked back, unable to help but wonder. He chuckled, leaned back down and looked at the fish. Haha, instead, let us play together. Mel's fingers playfully touched one of the clownfish, muttering to himself, Yes, she seems to be busy, she must be busy. He huddled in a corner, his mind filled with a jumble of random thoughts. She probably is not hurt, right? I will wait here a little longer, and the servants will come to deliver the message. Besides, Sylvain, I do not like anyone coming here. If that person tries to trick me, I can just avoid them, because this lake is very large. Mel gently closed his eyes, suddenly remembering. Once, the sea whispered to me. On a full moon night, he rose to the surface of the water to admire the view. That merfolk have the power to charm people, so do not be afraid. But the sea was also very worried, because young merfolk could not control their powers. Mel's eyes widened, staring intently ahead, and told me not to get too close to the sea surface. He was endlessly emotional when he remembered the past. At that time, if I had not risen above the water, I would not have been able to meet Sylvain. I do not regret my actions back then. Mel let himself drift with the water to another place. I miss you, Sylvain, but Sylvain did not come. Cherry blossoms bloomed and fluttered in the wind. Another month, and it would be a year, another year, and it would be 10 years. Spring went and winter came, white snow covered the branches. When a milestone passed, I suddenly realized that the leaves gradually withered, leaving the tree trunks bare and desolate. Time passed so quickly that I could not count it anymore. The lonely branch stood in the winter snow. Tomorrow will come, and then come again, continuing like this. Maybe she will come to see me when the snow melts. The crow's cry echoed throughout the forest. It flew up and landed on a branch. As expected, I am just a pet or a decoration in her eyes. The words she once said about taking me back to the sea were just words spoken when she was tired of me. Mel cried while reading the letter, tears streaming down uncontrollably. The words, I love you, were also false. A tear unconsciously fell on the abandoned letter in a corner on the ground. The words, I want to die, were also lies to elicit my sympathy, right? The affection for a pet like me never existed from the beginning. Right, Sylvain? I hate you to the bone. The full moon quietly stayed above the forest, shining a faint light to illuminate one direction. Since then, several decades have passed. I have given up hope and accepted that I have been abandoned, and there is no way to return to the sea. The lake reflected the moonlight, creating rippling waves. She is probably waiting for Sylvain, who is living happily and forgetting everything. Mel's tail played by the surface of the lake and felt no guilt at all. He exhausted both his strength and his mind, slumped against one side and made up his mind. If that is the case, I am going to die here. Mel clutched the letter in his hand. I never thought I would die in a place other than the sea, but it turned out like this in the end. He was blocked in front of Sylvain Noxerel by the guard's sword. When I was first brought here, I thought I might really die, but since she stopped them and protected me, I have not been worried anymore. Mel was taken inside by her. She suddenly caught me, brought me here, imprisoned me, taught me to read, and said she loved me. I always thought she was an impulsive child, but I did not hate it, because I liked the peaceful days when I was with you. He and Sylvain Noxerel were separated by a glass panel. I once thought that maybe you had the same feelings as me. His eyes were filled with boundless grief, biting his lip and thinking, in the end, you still did as you pleased. casually saving and then killing me, stealing my feelings and time. And then abandoning me like this. Mel collapsed mentally and fell down, muttering non-stop, "Servine, I hate you, but I also want you. Is this the love you talked about? Even if time passes, I still can't forget you." His tears could not be stopped from falling continuously. "God, please do something to help me. Please let me see her again." Mel used all his strength to look up at the sky, straining to shout, "Just a little bit is fine. Please let me see her again." Scales from his fins fell off little by little, losing their original shape. Mel's heart was a tangled mess, like a black ball of yarn. "The sea that I can't return to now. I have looked up at the sky like that sea and prayed for several years, no, dozens of years." He could not help but smile self-deprecatingly, his cracked lips murmuring each word. "In the end then, ha 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 ha." Mel abandoned his original fishtail, putting on unfamiliar legs to step on the ground. The moment his tears mixed with the lake water, the merfolk's wish came true. Mel took his first steps on his legs. Servine once said that if she died, she would be in the mansion. If I go there now, I might meet her. Bare feet stepped on the ground and went forward. The closer I got to the mansion, the faster my heart beat, feeling dizzy and hazy. The marks he left behind seemed to mark the existence Mel had passed through. I do not know why I feel so emotional. Mel could not help but stop when he suddenly saw his image in the water tank. This is the water tank that Servine imprisoned me in. His eyes were filled with astonishment, reassuring himself, that is right, the fish tank must have broken, so it might have changed. Nothing's probably wrong. Mel slowly leaned over, planning to leave. I should put on some clothes first. I want to look beautiful in her eyes. But suddenly, he saw a corpse in the corner. Even though decades have passed, the memories of being with you are still clear in my mind. Looking at the silent gate there, Mel thought in his heart, "I know." Her bright smile was still the same, filling Mel's mind. "If you apologize to me, no, even if you do not, and just smile at me, I will be happy like an idiot." He hurriedly threw open the mansion door. "So, just stay in that place. Don't leave me alone again." Mel's frantic voice echoed throughout the room, "Servine." From the pillars in the room, "Servine, it is me." "Where are you?" "To the stairs going upstairs." "Hey, is there anyone there?" The mansion was empty, without a single person. Only he stood there, muttering, "There is no one, anyone. Why is there no one?" Mel's face immediately turned pale, staring ahead in disbelief. His hand slowly reached near the surface of the lake. Everyone has left the mansion, and it did not take me long to realize that I was alone again. The lake water splashed up, covering the sky from below. Mel's face darkened, his eyes lost, squeezing the fish in his hand, becoming insane. His breathing gradually became more difficult, his mouth opened to take in air. Coughing repeatedly continued like this. I am going crazy from hunger, from loneliness, from hatred and longing. Mel's shoulders trembled continuously, but suddenly it stopped. I do not even know where the sea is, because I can't breathe underwater anymore. Servine said that if she died, she would be in the mansion, so I can only wait. His body collapsed, leaning on the ground for support, and while waiting, I understood everything. But Mel's face appeared with unwavering determination mixed with heartache. That if I meet her again, I will make her go through what I had to endure. In his eyes, Servine Noxeril sank deeper into the lake, getting further and further away from him. Maybe for the rest of my life, I will be haunted by the guilt I can't erase, because of the crime of murder. Maybe I will bear some kind of curse. She simply let herself fall into the bottom of the lake. Even so, it is okay. The painting of Servine Noxeril fell on the ground, no one cared. You said that if you died, you would come to this place. After experiencing the most agonizing pain, I will kill you again. She is like a sleeping princess in the forest, so I will wait until that time. In another portrait, Servine Noxeril's face exudes a cool and proud demeanor. Servine. The mansion remained the same, nothing changed too much. Time passed silently. The scenery outside the window was still the same. Mel stood by the window on the upper floor, looking down at the flower garden below. The only thing that signals the change of seasons are the flowers in the garden. Servine, daffodils, a flower that resembles your eyes, have bloomed. His eyes became lifeless long ago. His mouth unconsciously muttered to himself, Because I was afraid I would not be able to speak for the rest of my life, you taught me how to write yourself. Do you remember? Mel stood alone in the entire mansion, blending in with a dark and cloudy night. And what about you saying you were worried about me to death? Looking at the streaks of blood still remaining on the floor, staining a large area red that could not be erased, his heart was in turmoil with random thoughts. Did you really ever love me? You locked me in the lake, and then in the blink of an eye you abandoned me. You could not even keep your promise to take me back to the sea. Mel's hand was cut to pieces, unrecognizable. The blood was no longer red but had turned black. If you have your own hardships, who should I blame? Before hating you, before becoming human, I should have just died. His face showed a hint of pensive worry, like a soulless body that instinctively stood there looking forward. In the long, indefinite nights, I always wished for one thing, to see her again, just once. Smooth hair tossed in the wind, flying in the starry night. Even if someone tries to kill you, as long as you come here, it is great. Even if it is late, I just hope you do not forget me and come to me. And at that time, I had a dream. Mel's eyes flashed, looking ahead in disbelief. Mel. She was now standing in front of Mel, asking with concern, a very strange dream. Why are you here? Survey Noxeral's eyes sparkled with tears, meeting his eyes without wavering. A strange woman ran to the lake. She called my name, crying, and asking why I did not return to the sea. Just like how I became human, maybe Sylvain was also reborn as someone else, right? Mel unconsciously exclaimed in disbelief, Is it really Sylvain? Her face showed horror, shouting out loud in question, WH, why are you? It can't be. Mel's feet slowly moved forward while she solicitously suggested, Let us go, Mel. I will take you back to the sea. His whole body stood frozen, like a statue that was hard to knock down. Mel's voice immediately rang out after that. Ugh, Mel, you, even in my dreams you lie to me. She quickly leaned into Mel's arms, protesting and defending herself. No, Mel. This is not a dream. It is hard to believe, but I am Sylvain. I did not know you would be waiting for me here. I am really sorry. His eyes flickered downwards, lowering his head to see Survey Noxeral more clearly. I know the outcome of this hateful lie. It is obviously a trap to lure me out and imprison me somewhere. His hand suddenly grabbed Survey Noxeral's hand tightly, as if clinging tightly without letting go. Witnessing Mel resolutely pulling her away, she worriedly called out softly, Mel. Survey Noxeral's feet had to run to keep up with his pace. What are you doing? Where are you going? Tell me, Mel. A lake appeared before both of them at that moment. Yes, it is just a dream. With Mel's large, stiff back at this moment, she could not help but worry and constantly probe. Mel, what are you planning to do? Where are you going? What happened to me? The reason I abandoned you? Now it is all becoming vague. I know, I do not know, I once understood very clearly, but I have forgotten it all. He turned around and grabbed Survey Noxeral's shoulders tightly, whispering as if talking to himself. Haha, it is okay. This is just a dream. I have met you again. She frantically kept screaming. Mel hugged her shoulders tightly, asking with doubtful probing, Sylvain, that is so good. If you are here, you will never leave me again, right? Survey Noxeral instinctively avoided his touch. Mel, what are you planning to do? But Mel bluntly pushed her down into the blue lake water. Sylvain, my Sylvain, I hate you, but I also love you so much. Survey Noxeral's figure gradually got further and further away from him, along with the water current. Even if it is just in a dream, I still want to meet you again. My love. The water rippled, creating constantly undulating waves. His voice echoed everywhere along the flow. Now you can't leave me anymore, Sylvain. Survey Noxeral slowly opened her eyes, thinking irritably, Ha! This crazy merman! Her whole body floated listlessly on the surface of the lake, allowing herself to be swept away by the water current. He pushed me into the lake, as if locking me up in the lake. Can I escape this place? Even though I am a very good swimmer, my body is paralyzed by the poison, so I can't move. Survey Noxeral faced the starry sky, unable to help but be filled with emotion. It feels like my body is in the air. Not bad. But if I leisurely enjoy this feeling in the middle of winter, I will definitely die from hypothermia. Her eyes were half closed, pondering deeply. People say that when you die, all your memories will come back. but I do not see my father, my parents, or Proshin. There is only Mel in my mind. Why? Servain Noxarel let go, closing her eyes to rest and recuperate. Where and how are we bound to each other? Even at this moment, I am still just thinking about him. Suddenly, a loud cry echoed along the ripples, rushing over. Servain! Minael, frantically and hurriedly shook her awake. Wake up, Servain. Open your eyes. Hearing this, Servain Noxarel suddenly felt something and thought, this voice. Her face was filled with horror, leaning over and struggling to pull Servain Noxarel ashore. Minael. Her voice rang out with difficulty. Little by little, why are you here? Minael quickly spoke up, guiding her step by step. Breathe and focus on your arm. Servain Noxarel relaxed and lay on the ground, thinking to herself, how did it turn out like this? I thought you were living very well. She immediately kept calling out, Servain, are you okay? Don't faint. Servain Noxarel's face was pale from being soaked in water for too long. She had difficulty uttering, Minael, what is with that outfit? Minael immediately ignored it, only caring about her health at that time. That is not important now. Can you hear me? What happened? Servain Noxarel leaned to the side. Suddenly, she saw a basket of fruit scattered all over the ground. She is pretending to be a delivery person and breaking in. Well, if she just walked in like that, she would be killed by Mel. Looking at the bare, red apples left there, Servain Noxarel suddenly realized, but my senses are gradually going numb, my tongue is stiff, and my mind can't think of anything. Her lips moved, struggling to utter a few words. H-O-A. Minael immediately reacted, moving closer to hear more clearly. What? She whispered each word into Minael's ear. H-O-S-P, Ito, Poi. Her mouth unconsciously muttered, repeating Servain Noxarel's words, hospital, poison. Understanding what she wanted to express, Minael quickly carried her on her shoulders and ran away. It seems she has been poisoned, but she is still conscious to this extent, so she won't die. Because Proshin has already implemented a special measure for her. Minael's voice kept ringing out, in order not to let her fall asleep. Servain, even if it is painful, listen to me until we get to the hospital. I have many things to tell you. It may be difficult to understand everything at once. At this time, Servain Noxarel's consciousness had become blurred, only hearing a few words. Proshin. Why suddenly Proshin? Remembering the handsome, imposing young man, her heart suddenly pondered. Proshin, that name is not what we think. I came here because of him too. Minael's hurried footsteps stepped on the ground, making loud noises. But meeting you in this condition, we have to be faster. Hold on tight to me. You also know that the royal family, for generations, has had the ability to resist poison. Despite her poor endurance, she resolutely did not stop. She has lived in the royal palace all this time, so she must have absorbed a lot already, unlike me, who goes home after work every day. Servain Noxarel's eyes were dull, no longer conscious. Her mouth unconsciously made a sound, Proshin. Dark red blood was cut, following the force to fill the wine glass. He had us drink his own blood. He kept mixing his blood into the food and drinks. Only then did she suddenly realize all the reasons behind it. Proshin gave me and Minael blood. Thanks to that, I am immune to the poison. But is this a thought that a normal person can come up with? Minael suddenly spoke up to announce, and me coming to see you has nothing to do with this. I have something I need to let you know. But she was no longer conscious enough to think about everything. The poison is preventing me from thinking. I can't take it anymore. Servain Noxarel's eyes gradually closed, no longer able to force herself anymore. Servain. Before Minael's frantic and urgent calls, her mind gradually fell into a dark and misty silence. Servain, wake up. Open your eyes, Servain. Just a little bit more. Servain. Suddenly, various inconsistent cube-shaped objects appeared before Servain Noxarel's eyes, overlapping in a strange way. The faint figure of a girl suddenly appeared in her brain. Minael seemed to realize something, turning around to carefully observe and monitor her. Seeing this, she immediately moved closer, asking with concern, Are you awake, Servain? Minael's voice kept ringing out, asking urgently, How are you feeling? Your face is pale, and there is not a drop of blood left. But Servain Noxarel still reassured her, I am much better. Is this your hospital? Minael, sweating cold, suddenly felt relieved. She took off her glasses and said, "Thankfully, fortunately, you are okay. Thank you so much for saving me. I am alive thanks to you, Minael." Suddenly, Minael realized something, asking her back. "That is right, Sylvain." Looking at the elegant noble lady's dress that Sylvain Noxerel was wearing, she said mockingly, "Changed your fashion style." Sylvain Noxerel was flustered, not knowing what to say. "Ah." Her voice rang out with doubt. "As far as I know, you do not like these kinds of clothes because they are inconvenient. Moreover, the popularity of that set is a bit..." Sylvain Noxerel frantically thought of a way to justify herself in her head. "Anyway, I do not like wearing these kinds of designs. It is clothes at the Noxerel mansion, because this is the mansion that will belong to me. Trying it on should not be a problem." Following the gently burning candle, the conversation between the two passed by. "Clothes at the mansion that was abandoned about 100 years ago. It is a long story." A moment later, Minael finished listening to everything and made a judgment. "The person in that mansion is a merman, and that merman imprisoned you inside the mansion." She quickly spoke up to confirm, "Yes, that is right." Minael's eyebrows furrowed, disapproving and criticizing her. "It seems your brain has been affected by the poison." Servant Noxerel herself was extremely surprised. "I am still conscious. How surprising." Her eyes flashed with an indiscernible, thoughtful gleam. "Then answer me. Where did you meet me for the first time?" Servant Noxerel did not think too long and easily replied, "We met for the first time in prison." Her voice continuing the story, when hunting the witch. Hearing this, Minael supported her chin, carefully analyzing. The memory is still intact. Even though her face still had no color, she made a final decision. "Anyway, tomorrow I must immediately go to the mansion." Hearing this, Minael immediately objected, hurriedly advising her to give up. "What, the merman or whatever wants to imprison you? Right? Are you planning to step into his control again? Aren't you trying to escape?" Sylvain Noxerel's hand suddenly clutched the blanket when she heard her mention it. "Moreover, he is the one who pushed you into the lake." Her eyes flicked to the side to avoid Minael's gaze. "That, he probably mistook me for dead, so that is why." The starry sky faintly illuminated a corner of the room inside. "Hey, Minael, do you believe what I said?" Facing her, Sylvain Noxerel suddenly raised a difficult question about the existence of merfolk. She could not help but jump when Minael just answered, "I believe it." After a moment of deliberation, she finally concluded, "You are not the type to talk nonsense." If analyzed carefully, it is not completely unfounded. Sylvain Noxerel was very happy, but could not suppress her curiosity, and asked back, "Thank you for seeing me in a good light, but what is that so-called analysis based on?" She quickly answered the question, "Because you can't get close to the sea. To be more precise, you will definitely have an accident, whether it is a big boat or a small one." The image of Mel carrying her under the sea suddenly appeared. "If one of your ancestors committed a crime against the merman, as a descendant, you have to bear that pain. Is not that very reasonable?" Hearing Minael say this, she suddenly understood everything. "I have never thought so deeply. I really do not fit with the sea because of my ancestors' karma." A second later, Sylvain Noxerel suddenly let out a breath, immediately secretly refuting, "No. In the family, only I have bad luck with the sea." She turned to probe Minael. "Let us just assume that is the case. You are a doctor. Since when did you believe in legends or fairy tales?" "The members of my family all take boats normally." She shrugged, not caring. "Then it is a coincidence." Sylvain Noxerel was speechless. That is too irresponsible of a claim. The light reflected the shadow of the chair onto the floor. "Anyway, I do not intend to stay long in that mansion. I will take that person with me." Minael made a statement. "After everything? You mean you will take responsibility for a person who is psychologically weak and easily hurt?" Her lips unconsciously tightened, unable to say a word. Mel's heartbroken figure, full of tears in the depths of her eyes, hesitantly asked her, "You, is it true?" Sylvain Noxerel stuttered, "I think so." Seeing Sylvain Noxerel's expression, she could not help but sigh. "You have such a good heart. That is the nature of you, Sylvain Rahel Noxerel." A second later, Minael thoughtfully told her, "If that is what you want, then do it. I respect your decision." In return, you have to stay here until the doctor says you can be discharged. Surveillant Noxurel obediently agreed. Yeah, I will do that. The sun shone everywhere, filtering through the leaves to the ground. 3 days after that, she tied her hair in a ponytail and went to the old mansion. I had to be very determined to appear. Suddenly, a voice rang out, attracting Surveillant Noxurel's attention. Well, it has turned out like this. The situation is unfolding faster than I thought. She quickly approached, probing. What happened? Minael immediately spoke up to announce, Procyon sent a letter. She was extremely doubtful, muttering to herself, a letter. Minael suddenly announced a shocking piece of news. The letter says he will send knights here. It seems they will come to the Noxurel mansion tomorrow. Hearing this, she was stunned. Sent a group of knights. Why? Minael immediately brought the letter in front of her to explain. Surveillant, the fact that Procyon gave you the ability to be immune to poison for a long time, and the fact that the assassin was able to come here and poison you, there are too many suspicious points to consider it a coincidence. Reasoning like this, it is really not unreasonable at all. While Servant Noxurel was reading the letter sent from the other side, she continued to say what she knew, but suspicion is just suspicion. Until your health recovers. I hesitated whether or not to say it, but after reading this letter, I am sure. Before you fainted, I said I had something I wanted to tell you. Do you remember? Minael's eyes narrowed slightly, considering for a few seconds before making a statement. According to my reasoning, maybe from the beginning. A feeling of horror, as if betrayed, enveloped her. Procyon had no intention of giving you the title. Servant clenched her fist, listening intently. Minael said in a low, affirmative voice, according to my reasoning, maybe from the beginning, Procyon had no intention of giving you the title. Surveillant frowned after hearing this, sweat glistening on her cheeks, her eyes revealing confusion. Wait, this is not reasonable. Isn't this method too immature? Just by coming to the mansion, I can get back the Duke's title. Minael's voice was as cold as ice. If the Duke's title belongs to you anyway, then why did not Procyon wait for you at the royal palace and come all the way here to pick you up? Think about it. She took a breath, calmed herself, and explained carefully. Because the title conferring ceremony must be held as soon as you return. As if turning back the memory. Her voice was slow and full of meaning. I told Procyon many times to prepare in advance. Minael recalled Procyon's cold and silent face at that time, and continued to tell seriously. At that time, you sent a letter saying that you would postpone your plan to return to the capital. She paused for a beat, as if to let the listener fully absorb the meaning, and then emphasized each word as if wanting to strip bare that unreasonable delay. But even as time passed, Procyon had no intention of preparing for the title conferring ceremony. She gritted her teeth and emphasized, definitely Procyon is secretly carrying out a goal that we do not know about. Hearing this, Surveillant's hand clenched slightly as a reflex, her voice lowered, carrying doubt and unease. A plan promoted by Procyon himself, that is why he gave me blood to keep me alive. Her voice was full of emotion, wondering and resenting. I always thought he was a teammate who went through life and death together. Why, in the end... Minael suddenly interrupted, calling loudly, Surveillant. She frowned slightly, her eyes seeming to see through the other person's heart. Whether or not to trust Procyon is your decision. Minael's calm voice rang out like a gentle warning. What I mean is that you now need to be wary of him. Surveillant looked straight into her firm eyes. I trust you, Minael. It is just that these things are making me too confused. Minael nodded coldly. I understand. She closed her eyes thoughtfully. I have a feeling the truth of everything lies in that mansion. Minael's voice was even, but could not hide the worry. I do not know when his soldiers will come here. Let us go to the mansion quickly, Surveillant. Then she affirmed firmly, that is the only key that can expose Procyon's secret. After that, everything seemed to fall silent. Only the rustling of leaves in the wind rang out like the sigh of the forest. The steady sound of footsteps echoed on the deserted road. Surveillant's mind was full of confused thoughts. After that conversation, neither of them spoke to each other. Not knowing how long had passed, she silently followed behind Minael, her heart filled with mixed feelings. Before, Minael and I have never been like this, so I feel a little uncomfortable. Looking at Minael in front, Surveillant blamed herself. I want to say something to start a conversation, but every topic I think of is related to Procyon. In the end, is that all there is to talk about? Thinking this, she unconsciously called softly, Minael. Her voice warned gently, before entering the mansion, there is one thing you need to be aware of. Minael said coldly. What is it? Servain sighed and advised. If you happen to meet the merman I told you about, do not look at him. Minael sneered. Why? Servain's voice was low and wary. I guess the merman has the ability to charm people. Minael frowned, coldly scoffing. Ha! I was wondering what you were going to say, so it is about the merman. But then she nodded reluctantly, considering softly. But that existence is not impossible either. Let us just keep it in mind for now. Minael looked towards the massive mansion gate, declaring calmly, We will know right away when we enter the mansion. She looked at the sky around the gloomy mansion. After all, it is your mansion. I am not in a position to judge the exterior. But instead of being exquisite and beautiful, it exudes a gloomy and cold atmosphere. Minael's voice lowered with suspicion. Someone living in this place? No. Who would think a merman would live here? Before them was the sad and bleak scenery of the luxurious mansion. The heavy iron gate slowly opened. Servain turned and said softly, Wait here. Minael was surprised. What? She explained in detail in a gentle voice. Actually, the merman is not feeling well. He is kind-hearted, soft-hearted. It is just that his mind is not very stable. Then she honestly expressed, In short, he is not conscious right now. Surely you are not planning to bring someone like that along. Minael crossed her arms, enunciating each word, her voice angry. Do you think you will be safe? Servain stammered. That? Minael frowned, closing her eyes sharply, her voice cold. Wake up. That merman pushed you into the lake. What are you thinking in your brain to want to bring? Without letting her finish her sentence, Servain suddenly slammed the gate shut, cutting her off decisively. Sorry, you wait here for me. Then she turned and walked in, leaving Minael standing there, unexpectedly not having time to react. Ignoring Minael's screaming Servain, she walked faster and faster. Minael still frantically yelled, Servain Rahel Noxerel, while she sped up, running like the wind. Once inside, Servain locked the door and sighed in relief. Okay, the door is locked. Fortunately, she did not chase after me. Then she sighed, her heart in a mess. Even if you believe in the existence of merfolk, with Minael's personality always wanting to prove her hypothesis, when she meets Mel, I do not know what will happen. Servain closed her eyes, panting. I once intended to run away or risk my life to resist. Then she opened her eyes, her gaze falling into the distant space, her thoughts still intertwined with whispering ripples. Yet now I am betraying my friend's trust, stepping into this gloomy mansion again. Servain was immersed in vague thoughts. She quietly turned her eyes towards the stairs, her heart in a mess. Perhaps the one who has been charmed is me. Thinking this, Servain softly called out as if whispering into the silent space. Mel, where are you? Her eyes stopped at the long corridor covered in a cold white color. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. I thought the hallway would be covered with the blood of those assassins that day, but it is unexpectedly so clean. Then immediately after, Servain reminded herself, It seems without me, he is still living well. Thinking this, she lightly flicked her eyes towards the window, where the faint light shone in, making the room even quieter. As she walked, Servain absent-mindedly thought, If I think about him not eating or drinking anything, leaving corpses in the room, her feet suddenly stopped. Standing in front of a room, Servain bowed her head thoughtfully. Surely, I will be heartbroken. That thought came like a knife cutting across her stream of emotions. But not allowing herself to continue falling into that tangled mess of emotions anymore, she urged herself, Don't think anymore, just go inside. Then she gently pushed open the door. Servain carefully stepped into the room, her voice as gentle as the wind. Mel. Before her eyes was the vast and quiet space of the bedroom. Servain sighed in relief. As expected, he is in that person's room. Silently looking for a long time at the large bed, Mel lay there sleeping soundly, but still holding the wooden box of keepsakes in his arms. Her heart clenched. Do you know, Mel, seeing you sleep, my heart feels heavy. Servain gently sat down on the edge of the bed, softly saying, I have so many things I want to ask when I meet you again. Countless questions without answers arose in her heart. Why did you push me into the lake? Why did you use that apologetic look to look at me? That look made Servain feel wronged, so pitiful, like that. Looking at him lying still, her heart constricted, her voice lowered. At the very least, I want to know why you are holding the box so tightly. Sylvain looked at Mel for a long time, gently, but with a heart full of heartache. And I also want to let him sleep a little longer, just sleeping like that, without covering himself with a blanket. I do not understand what he is thinking. Then she unconsciously reached out and gently touched his hair, whispering lovingly, "What will I do if you catch a cold?" Suddenly, a strong force pulled Sylvain down onto the bed, causing her to not have time to react. Everything was turned upside down in an instant. Sylvain shouted in panic, her heart pounding. "What is it?" Mel's voice was warm and familiar. "Hello, Sylvain. Long time no see." He quickly flipped over, looking at her with eyes that were both passionate and reproachful. "How does it feel to abandon me a second time?" Sylvain had not recovered yet, when Mel softly spoke in a warm and earnest voice. "Sylvain, I am asking you, why do not you answer?" She widened her eyes, her expression still in shock, then blurted out an explanation. "You? Suddenly waking up like this? It would be strange if someone was not surprised." Sylvain tried to calm the atmosphere, gently coaxing, "First, calm down." But Mel did not answer at all, instead suddenly lunging up, pushing her hand high up, his voice dropping sharply. "No." Then, as if afraid that Sylvain would disappear right before his eyes, Mel tightly squeezed her wrist, his voice earnestly begging, "Don't go anywhere. Stay here. Let go. I will run away again." That sudden craze caused her pain, her voice lost, because it was being squeezed tightly. "Mel, it hurts," and he said in a trembling voice, as if struggling with an unnamed fear, You. Suddenly, Mel's tears fell, pattering down, each drop soaking into his own gloomy face. His cheeks flushed red with emotion. Then in a choked sob he whispered, as if complaining, "Left me again." Mel was still in a state of emotion, his voice hoarse with pain. "Stay with me. No, please stay here. Do not go anywhere." The tears fell onto Sylvain's face, hot and sincere, but her heart was as tangled as a ball of yarn. "It is so strange. He is the one who pushed me into the lake and wanted to kill me." Mel choked, each word coming out like a knife piercing the listener's heart. "Don't go." Sylvain's mind at this moment was chaotic, conflicting, and struggling. Why at this moment am I still moved by his crying face? She slowly sat up, facing Mel. Sylvain's heart at this moment could no longer resist. A feeling of excitement surged. The doubts all this time suddenly vanished, so that all I saw was his cuteness and loveliness. She said softly, her voice as gentle as the breeze, "Mel, do not cry." Because more than anyone else, she knew very well, clearly, I have been charmed by him. Thinking this, Sylvain's hands gently lifted, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched his tear-stained cheeks, whispering gently, "Open your eyes." "Don't you want to look at me?" Deep in her heart, Sylvain still thought of herself as a rational and firm person. I was very confident in my ability to judge rationally. Mel refused to open his eyes, as if just seeing her would shatter everything. His voice was choked. "I do not want to." "If I open my eyes, you will leave here again." Meanwhile, Sylvain's eyes still followed every line on that face. The bright white skin like ivory, the beautiful eyes hiding behind the closed eyelids, the long eyelashes, the beautiful high nose. She suddenly whispered, as if coaxing a child who was dreaming, "I am not leaving. What do I have to do for you to believe me?" Saying this, Sylvain gently reached out and brushed the messy hair on Mel's forehead, revealing his thick, curved eyelashes. Her voice was so gentle that it seemed to melt. "Mel, I want to see your eyes." "You still won't. I miss you so much, Mel." At this point, Mel's eyelashes fluttered slightly, his eyes gradually opening, looking straight at her with a deep gaze. Sylvain admired silently an existence that is heartbreakingly beautiful. Mel slowly opened his eyes to look at her, seeing Sylvain's face, staring blankly at him. He softly called, "Sylvain." She was slightly flustered, the memories suddenly rushing back, making her heart a mess. She asked softly, "Mel, why did you push me into the lake?" Sylvain sincerely recounted, "At that time, I was still conscious and remembered very clearly until the end. I asked you to take me to a doctor." Mel was gasping, hesitant as if not knowing where to begin. "That matter?" Seeing Mel flustered, she gently coaxed, "I am not angry, I am just curious, so I am asking." "Why?" He lowered his head, his voice soft. No, Sylvain. Mel trembled, his hands tightly squeezing Sylvain's arm, confessing, You forget it. It was just a dream. I thought you were dead, so... Hearing this, she sternly cut him off, unable to hide her anger. I do not want to talk to a liar. Mel suddenly hugged her tightly, his voice choking as if begging, Sylvain, forgive me. While Sylvain was struggling to push him away, Mel. Wait. Mel stammered. I can't again. He moaned softly as if in pain. You can't go into the water. Those words echoed in Sylvain's head. Again, can't go into the water. Mel said gently, his eyes full of remorse. Does it hurt a lot? Are you okay? I am sorry. In Sylvain's head arose a suspicion. Everyone who hears it will find it really strange. He looked at her with regretful eyes, saying with emotion, I won't do that again. While Sylvain was silent, but I do not care at all. The emotions in her heart surged again. He is lovely, and he is pitiful, but strangely, I like this begging and earnest look the most. Mel's voice suddenly rang out sincerely like a vow. I swear to you, I won't be like that again, absolutely not. Sylvain was stunned. In my heart, Mel hugged her tightly, squeezing her as if not wanting to leave. Please, forgive me, Sylvain. While in Sylvain's mind it was chaotic, a feeling of wanting to possess him surged. Her eyes looked hazy, deep in her heart asking herself, why? In the end, am I like this? At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out, Sylvain, pulling her back to reality. It was Miniel. She coldly interrupted the atmosphere. I was worried, so I followed you. Her standing with her arms crossed, looking at both of them sternly, made Sylvain hesitant and panicked. When did you come in here, Miniel? She crossed her arms, leaning against the wall and questioning coldly. Just now, you did not even know when I came in. Then she continued, now explain the situation. Not long after, Sylvain said, with gentle concern, So, Miniel, are you really okay? But she replied in a curt voice, What? Not giving up, she repeated gently but with no less probing. You really do not see anything, Miniel said sharply. See what? Sylvain's hands held Mel's face, looking deeply into his eyes, asking her best friend with doubt. This face? No? After making eye contact, do not you feel anything? That question made Miniel pause, hesitating for a beat. She gently pushed up her glasses, then called her name softly. Sylvain. After a moment of silence, Miniel sighed, seriously questioning. You said that if you look at him, you will be charmed, right? Sylvain nodded. Yeah. Mel at this time was hugging her tightly, not leaving her even in the slightest, while Miniel slowly concluded, Only you think your lover is beautiful. Making Sylvain's face suddenly turn red, her eyes widening in surprise. Miniel was still indifferent, as if nothing had happened. I understand you are embarrassed, because it is your first time having a lover. Then she continued blankly. You should have told me sooner so I could have taken care of it. Sylvain stammered. Huh, what are you talking about? Miniel said in a low voice. If you plan to marry that merman, then worry about cleaning up his identity. But before she could finish speaking, Sylvain hurriedly interrupted. Wait, it is not what you think. She smiled awkwardly, her voice flustered. I will take responsibility for Mel, but we are not in that kind of relationship. Do not misunderstand. Then she thought to herself, how humiliating. Miniel asked in a low voice. Then why did you say you would bring him along? Sylvain explained gently. Because I can't let him stay in this mansion anymore. This is the minimum that humans should do. Miniel crossed her arms seriously. The rest is about the capital. Now immediately pack your luggage. Hearing this, Mel immediately said in a confused voice, the capital. He panicked, looking at her with bewildered eyes. Sylvain, are you going? To the capital? She smiled reassuringly, gently stroking his hair. I said it before, we will go together, did you forget? Mel gradually stabilized, his voice slower. No, I did not forget. She gently stroked his head, whispering. Then, will you go with me? Mel said firmly in a low voice. Yeah, I will go to the capital. I will do everything you want. While Miniel sat opposite, crossing her arms in front of her chest and patiently watching the drama. Unable to withstand the affectionate atmosphere anymore, she frowned and coldly interrupted. Sorry for interrupting, but Miniel said seriously and decisively, this matter, it is better to talk about it later. At that moment, the door to the room gently cracked open. Immediately after, a deep, male voice rang out in the quiet space. "Hello, Sir Vane." It was none other than King Proshin. As soon as he entered, he flashed a radiant smile like the morning sun. "I missed you so much."